Bird runs into him, the right-handed Hales, who drives away from his body, pushes into the offside. Carlos Brathwaite tidies up in the covers. Hales off the mark straight away. The Thunder 7 without loss doesn't quite tell the story of that over. That 5 runs off the first illegitimate delivery, and thereafter, once Jackson Bird got his lines and his lengths, batsmen just having a little bother with this new ball on this pitch. Be interesting to see. We've not seen too many of those 130 plays 130 type games, which are really, really tight. Those sort of low scoring games. The pitches have tended to be a little bit easier than that, but also we've not seen any really big scores. Not had 100 yet, have we?
No, without a century this season. I think the highest we have on show tonight, don't we? Daniel Hughes, 97 I think he's got this season.
Yep.
Just check on that. Yeah.
Sam Billings in a bit of form as well. We saw his
96, sorry, forgive me, I got it wrong
the other day. 96 is it? Yeah, so it'd be nice to see a ton, wouldn't it? Steve O'Keefe is going to start in, the left armour, and his first ball's punched off the back foot by Hales into the covers for a single. 8 without loss. The Thunder brings Khawaja back on to strike. People have been wondering where Moses Henriques is, but he's with the Australian Test squad, if you're wondering.
Thank you, Dan.
There's a bit of that. There's a bit of. I get these curious queries here and there, and I sort of do think, you can always Google it, but other search engines are available, I'm sure.
We are a search engine.
We are, yeah. 5 in the ring on the offside. Round the wicket comes O'Keefe to the left-handed Khawaja, who flicks this into the onside along the ground, up to wide long on for a single.
Well, I think that one of the players on show tonight, Dan Christian, has the nickname, and it may be a common thing now, I don't know, in workplaces of all sorts, but I think his nickname is Siri.
Oh, really?
As in, he has all the answers.
I didn't know that.
I believe that is the case, yeah.
We must try that out on him.
Well, you can. It's up to you. I mean, I think he's a decent chap, but I want to get to know him quite well.
Full and driven by Hales to mid-off, who is inside the ring. There's no run. Of course, next time he's over here with Nottinghamshire.
Well, he gave me a slightly curious look, 10 yards away, however far it was.
O'Keefe, that's been clattered through the offside. A wonderful shot by Hales. Gave himself a little bit of room, and O'Keefe just dragged the ball down. It wasn't too short, but it was short enough. And Hales found the gap between extra cover and mid-off, hit it all along the ground up to the boundary for 4.
And I was interviewing him down on the boundary for the finals day/night in Birmingham back in October last year. He gave me a slightly curious look when...
O'Keefe in, more flighted, down. That has beaten everybody. I say it was flighted, it was a push through a little bit quicker, and it's gone between Alex Hales' bat and his pad, to the left of the keeper, down to the boundary for 4 byes, and O'Keefe gives a stern look. I think it was tough on the keeper. When you fire that ball in, it's hard to see, isn't it? It's a great big whir of arms and legs, and O'Keefe's sort of thinking that's a missed stumping, but that would have been one of the most sensational takes by a keeper of all time.
Well, exactly.
So down to the boundary for 4 byes. Here's O'Keefe in again, and that is more flighted and is dragged really from off stump along the ground up to long on for a single. End of the over. A productive one for the Thunder there. 18 without loss. Hales has 7. Khawaja has 2.
Yeah, my Dan, just to finish off, he gave me that curious look. What are you on about? As many do when I speak. And this was my particular excitement over the fact that I had to draft Peter Trigo into the team for the final. I said, well, Peter Trigo, fantastic. I love Trigo on the field. He tends to be quite entertaining, doesn't he, as a cricketer?
Very much so.
And then he gave me that, and I think he in the end said, well, I'm very pleased then. And I think, yes, thank you, Dan. I'll move on now. But no, he looks a decent sort, and that was his 8th in Birmingham in October. That was Dan Christian's 8th domestic T20 winning appearance, if you like, trophy.
So on IPL, is he IPL, BBL?
He's done most of them. Yeah, I'm not too sure if the Caribbean's included. I think that might be one that's not included, but pretty much all of them around the world, but 8 of them.
That's not bad, is it? That's Ryan Giggs territory. Here's Jake Ball in full, driven by Hales, straight back past the bowler and straight onto the stumps at the non-striker's end. It didn't touch anybody else or anything else, so there was no danger to Khawaja at the non-striker's end. But endangered both of the stumps and to Hales' mood, because he hit that beautifully. People often say the batsman's very unlucky. The thing is, the stumps don't move, so a lot of cricket is placement.
Do you also get a little tinge of extra excitement when you've got ball facing Hales?
I do.
And
Hales has just smashed ball over his head without great timing. The ball plugged ever so slightly before rolling gently over the rope at a straight long on, and Hales has picked up the boundary. It was in the slot, as the modern vogue is, and he didn't quite time it. Got near the bottom of the bat, hands turned a touch, but he got enough on it to elevate it over mid-on and pick up his second boundary.
I know it goes on a great deal. I mean, it always has done. International cricket, county players will end up playing each other perhaps in international cricket. I've done over the time, but it still, I think, adds a little extra something.
Oh, Hales has just clattered this. It was, again, too full, and Hales has just fetched that from outside off stump over deep mid-wicket for 6. He's looked at his bat as if to sort of tell it off. He's not happy with that. Didn't go quite as far as he wanted it to, but it's gone. We see 83 metres. That's not bad. Into the seats. It's the first 6, and Hales looks in decent form here. He moves to 17. He will be eyeing, that golden cap. He's not far off 300 runs. Started today on 269. So he's up now to 286. Here comes ball. He's under a bit of pressure here to Hales, and Hales pulls firmly, viciously for 4 in front of square. That's a trademark Hales shot. We see that so many times. It goes flat and hard just in front of square, and the fielder at deep backward square leg had no chance.
Well, this puts him second, doesn't it, in the most runs for the season. He's got to get to 302 to overtake Ben McDermott of the Hurricanes, who currently leads that most runs table. But also in terms of boundaries, I mean, he's top of the bunch for that one. Ahead of this game this evening, he scored 45 boundaries, 31 fours and 14 sixes. So he's very much enjoying himself, so shall we say, in BBL 10.
That's not bad, is it? In 9 games. Average 5 boundaries a game. Ball in again. Oh, he's muscled this one as Hales over deep mid-wicket. It's gone further, if anything, this time. Has it been dropped in the crowd? It was a very good chance, but it's another 6. And Jake Ball is under a spot of bother here. He's gone for 20 runs in his first 5 balls, all against his Nottinghamshire teammate. It feels a bit cruel. Yeah, there's something.
It does.
Yeah.
I'd like to know at what point Nottinghamshire teammates watching and listening around the world send them their respective text messages.
Well, Dan Christian's there as well, of course. So.
Yes, yeah, he'll be joining in.
Yeah, right. How's he going to get out of this over? The Thunder are now 38 without loss. I haven't updated you on the score for far too long because runs keep on being scored. Here's ball into the wide stance. Hales, who clips a full toss away to deep backward square leg. It won't be a boundary, but he will keep the strike as the throw comes in. 39 without loss after 3 overs. The Thunder 21 off that over, and Hales moves to 28 from 12. In a couple of overs' time, Kevin, we'll bring in Ravi Bopara, and he can join you.
Well, that's kind.
I'll take a little break then.
Yeah, much deserved. Much deserved.
I wouldn't go
coffee and tea will be on hand, no doubt, for you.
Well, I've done my coffee already. Only thing is, I've got to tell you, I thought I wasn't quite sure about the milk. I thought of bringing some milk in, but among other things, I was a little bit short for time this morning, and I was relying on the milk that was here, and I have to tell you, I shouldn't have. There was has Ravi used it? No, he's gone just with water. There is coffee. There's black coffee available. So my coffee is Son's milk this morning, evening, or wherever you might happen to be listening. We'll need to rectify that, of course, for the upcoming Test series, which will be live on 5 Live Sports Extra. England against Sri Lanka in Gaul. Start of a new over. Jackson Bird back in the attack, and he's just been walloped over extra cover for a 3-bounce 4 by Alex Hales. Lifted again. Hales making magnificent use of the fielding restrictions inside these first 4 overs. It wasn't the cleverest ball from Jackson Bird. It was too full and wide enough for Hales to free his arms. And Hales, all he had to do was get it over the infield, but he did it with some style, and he's moved 32. He's hit 25 runs of his last 5 balls. 7 balls, I should say, sorry.
Well, we're at the Manuka Oval, Canberra here, with a lot of runs needing to be scored, if you take a look at the average scores.
Bird in, worked into the onside by Hales to wide mid-on. No run. I'm on tenterhooks, tell me.
Well, the average first innings score is 175, but the Thunder alone, they've played here 5 times. They've won 4 of those 5 matches. They enjoy playing here at this ground, though it's not their home ground, of course. And twice, as a team, they've scored over 200 runs. Ooh. So you do need your runs at this venue.
But it's quite a big venue, though, isn't it? I mean, the boundaries aren't the smallest. So it's, it's not like Trent Bridge, where you have that quite curious boundary arrangement on one side. As Jackson Bird is in again, and Hales gives himself room and then slogs this, really. Heaves it out to deep mid-wicket for a single. Jordan Silk does the fielding. 1 more to the total, 44 without loss. Hales to 33 from 15. Khawaja, who's barely faced a ball since that first over, has he? Is now back on strike.
Well, what we do need is an innovation, as if he does. Has he got there yet? I don't think he has. Not quite over the 301 runs to be the leading run scorer. They need to stop the game to actually run out, to put some sort of yellow ribbon around his arm or something, just to say, oh, you've done it now, mate, you're top of the pile.
Well, he's on 302 now.
Well, get that yellow ribbon out to him then.
Yeah?
Now.
I'm all for that. Jackson Bird in to Khawaja, who drives in the air straight to mid-off, but he's gone. It was a limp dismissal. Dan Christian takes the easiest of catches around about knee height. It was a little wide of Khawaja. Maybe a good bit of bowling from Bird. Might have taken a bit of pace off that, run his fingers down the side of the ball. And Khawaja reaching for it, toe ended it, and it was taken about waist height really by Dan Christian, and the Thunder lose their first wicket. They're 44 for 1.
Is it like almost like an envy wicket that he's been standing there at the other end watching Alex bish and bash it left, right and centre, and then he gets his chance and oh dear, not a great time for him, seeing the other fellow at the other end clear the rope, and he couldn't get it away there. But still, as you say, they've all done well in the top order so far this competition. Usman Khawaja most definitely one of them, over 200 runs, 239 coming into this game, so still he's having a very good season.
He is, and Callum Ferguson has also got over 244 runs. He's still got Sam Billings, Ben Cutting, Daniel Sam's back in the side. That's an important man to have back in. He's come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. I was thinking about your yellow ribbon though, and I was thinking they did something not massively dissimilar, didn't they? When Jack Hobbs got his 100th 100, they brought out a silver tray of champagne.
Fantastic.
Do you think there should be more of that sort of thing?
Not necessarily the alcohol, Daniel. But a little bit of recognition at the moment, at that time. Say, hold on, lads.
I love the idea it was on a silver tray. I haven't seen a picture of it, but I've always imagined it as a sort of butler in the sort of, I'll come back to it in a moment, Downton Abbey style. Flicked off the pads by Callum Ferguson. Through mid-wicket, going to pick up at least 2 for it. Jake Ball ferries it towards Jordan Silk, and they do pick up 2. Yes, I'm sort of imagining Carson coming out in tails onto a cricket ground.
Well, he would be just the man, wouldn't he? Because being a big cricket fan. But it will be the case that Alex has to come out wearing the yellow cap now, I think, when he comes out to field later. I think he'll have to do that.
Well, I mean, that's presuming, of course, that Callum Ferguson doesn't.
Very good point. Ahead of myself, as always, Dan. Ahead of myself. Sorry.
Bird in to Callum Ferguson, who works this off his hip, tucks it away really into the onside. They'll get just the single for it. Ferguson to 3, 47 for 1. That's the end of the power play. One of the more productive power plays we've seen this year. I've seen one of the things that's come in with this 4-over power play and then a 2-over surge is I don't know how conscious it is, but sides haven't really often got off to a massive flyer. I found sort of 28 for 1 is not unusual.
And almost by design. I'm not saying that anybody sets out not to score runs, of course, but almost if they're not really that worried about it in many of the occasions either.
Well, yes, it's almost as if, because I've seen quite a few surges I've seen a few that have gone wrong, of course, but I've seen a few there, between 35 and 40 runs have been hit, and it's almost as if they think that having those players in later on for those 2 overs is more valuable than going hell for leather and risking the loss of wickets in the first 4, which is intriguing. Lloyd Pope is into the attack, and his first delivery, the leg spinner, is around off stump, gets the inside edge of Ferguson's bat. No run. Lloyd Pope burst to fame when he bowled out England's under-19s, and that was a tough watch for an England fan that day. Tossed up again, and has that missed the outside edge? No, it hasn't. It's taken the outside edge, and Callum Ferguson's got to go. He was stuck on the crease. The ball's turned enough, skipped on a bit off the pitch, taken the edge, and it's been well taken behind the stumps by Josh Philippi. And a rather sad-faced Callum Ferguson can have that rather sad face occasionally, but particularly sad-faced Callum Ferguson has got to depart. The Thunder lose their second wicket there, 47 for 2, and Lloyd Pope is elated.
2 stories here. You've got the Alex Hales story and then the wickets going down. So you're left wondering exactly where do the Thunder stand at this stage. The middle order to late order, they haven't had to have a lot of exposure, so maybe we'll get to see what they can do on this ground a little later on this evening. But in terms of Ferguson and Khawaja, 2 who are having a good season but not doing it tonight, and Billings, who we've already found out can be very entertaining when it comes to running between the wickets, makes his way out now to see if he can repeat what he did the other night, which is got 80 odd runs, 83 runs.
Was 83, yes. That's fine innings. Couldn't quite get him over the line. We were watching that with Ravi Bopara as well, of course, who was
the dream team back together again with the Thunder.
But he gave us that magnificently wise theory, sagacious thoughts from Ravi about how Billings should turn down the singles.
Yes,
and make sure that he stayed on strike.
Yep.
In the run chase as the lower order he didn't really fancy for the job, and unfortunately we didn't really get to test that theory too much because Billings got out with about 9 balls to go, didn't he? But I like the theory.
And I was surprised it's been so little talked about in dressing rooms, to be honest with you.
Sorry?
That I was surprised they hadn't talked about it more in dressing rooms, doing that sort of thing.
That's right, yes. Pope in and coming fully forward is Sam Billings, pushing into the offside, and there is no run. Yes, that was surprising, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because I'm sure we've been talking about it in commentary for a few years now, the idea of doing that sort of thing.
I don't think they listen to us as much as we like to think.
No, of course not. I wasn't saying that. But.
Down the leg side, pulled away by Billings. It was a loose ball by Pope. He's only going to get 2 for it, though, as James Vince tidies up a deep backward square leg. Lloyd Pope used to have the most magnificently extravagant hair, and that's all gone. And I have to say, his effectiveness has somewhat diminished since the days when he had that massive hair. It's a sort of Samson-esque progression, really. Now, this is tossed up, worked into the onside nicely by Billings for another single. Pope has to, nearly field of his own bowling as the ball went out to the edge of the 30-yard circle. 50 up, though, 50 for 2. Billings on 3, Hales on 33, all English pairing at the wicket. Hales on strike, will he be able to resist? Especially if Pope tosses it up. You can see Hales going for this. That's short, actually, flat, and worked into the onside by Hales at deep backward square. Vince does the fielding again. End of the 5th over, a successful one for Lloyd Pope, picking up the wicket of Callum Ferguson. The Thunder, after 5 overs, 51 for 2. Alex Hales has 34. Billings has 3. All thoughts from Kevin Howes, who will be joined now by Ravi Bopal.
Indeed, yes. We say hello to Ravi, and we'll be getting Ravi's thoughts throughout this game. And as has just been mentioned, Ravi was coming up with some very interesting theories and various bits and bobs to do with this game, and it has become, for my money at least, all the more entertaining for the big bash boost bonus point, and also for the power surge, and I'm just starting to wonder. I haven't got any stats to back this up, but I saw it yesterday when a team decided, was it yesterday or the day before, team decided to go for the power surge in overs 11 and 12 because they were struggling. There were 3 wickets down. I just wondered if 3 wickets down could be the moment. So the first ball of this 6th over is bowled. Jackson Bird to Hales into the offside for no run. Whether the 3 wickets down is perhaps a little bit of an indication that you should be thinking about taking that power surge a little bit earlier rather than later, but we'll get the thoughts from Ravi on that as this game progresses. But it is the Thunder up against the Sixers. It's the top two in the Big Bash Season 10 ladder, as we see Jackson Bird bowling his third over. He comes into bowl now on the pads. Hales going down the leg side. They'll go through for one. Quick one, the call from Billings, and he makes his ground. Hales just wakes up in time to get his legs going, makes it to the right end. So it's now 52 for 2, and once again we're talking about Alex Hales scoring some pretty impressive runs. Still with work to do, but he's made a terrific start here, Ravi.
He has. And the question I've got is, do you think he doesn't like his Notts teammate Jake Paul?
Oh, he showed no mercy.
Do you think they've had a bust up in the changing rooms before?
Oh, he's got to be professional. I'd hate to think it. I wouldn't have thought it, to be honest with you, and I know you're only joking, but he showed no mercy, did he? It was awful from that point of view. Billings is on 3. He faces, and that was pushed into the offside. Jackson Bird, and there'd be no run. But listen, just throw a little bit of light onto this. I guess the answer quite simply is you're always out there to win, you're being professional. But for me, as a watcher, when I'm seeing in these sort of almost alien circumstances the likes of Jake Ball bowling to Alex Hales, it adds something to me as a spectator. What about the players? Are there any thoughts like that going through the minds or not for yourself? And think of an occasion maybe when you've come up against it.
Well, what that does tell me is knowing your opposition. I mean, the amount of balls he must have faced from Jake Ball in his time at Notts. And knowing your opposition.
Bird into Hales now, works that onto the onside. There'll be at least one. They might push hard as the fielder comes up for 2, but no, they'll just settle for 1.
And the effectiveness of the unknown, as well as you go into playing these leagues, is players you haven't played against, bowlers you haven't faced, are so much more effective when you don't know them. And it's just amazing to see what happens when you know a bowler, you faced him that many times, how much easier it can be to score your run. So one thing it has taught me is...
Bird to Billings, bowls now defensively, no run.
Is knowing your position very well really does help with performance.
But does it add anything can you think of an occasion when you've got a bowler you've known from Essex bowling to you in a different circumstance, whether it be internationals, of course, because that has happened for many years, or maybe in franchise cricket? Does it add more to your, and I'll use this word, and I'll use it in a very generous way, but the ego, the want, the desire to do better, if you like, as Billings on 4 faces Jackson Bird in now and played away square on the onside, and there will be 1 run again. So 6 overs gone, 55 for 2.
Absolutely. One thing you don't want to do is get out to one of your teammates when they're playing in the opposing team. It's one of those things that they will remind you about over and over again in the English season. Do you remember that time I got you?
So that over then, Hales, that we've seen from Bale,
Ball
to Hales, that's going to be talked about.
Jake Ball's never going to hear the end of that.
Is that right? Oh dear, I don't know why I'm laughing. But he just has to get on with it, and he will have to come up with a time when he's got Hales out for a duck or something similar.
Yeah, well, he's not going to get many opportunities.
No, this is true. But he'll have to dream up something to have some sort of retort to that. Billings on 5, Hales on 35. Alex Hales, he's the leading run scorer in the competition this season, 19 balls faced. But it's Billings who faces now as Pope again bowls, and that the leading edge scoops up behind square on the offside. Have you played at this ground, Ravi? Because we're saying that it does seem you need to score some runs here. Average score of 175, did I say, first innings, and this one is played square to the square leg boundary, and there will be 1 run.
I'm not sure if I have played at this ground. We'd have to go and look in the old through the stats thing, and which will tell me what grounds I've played at.
But it does obviously look as if you do need to get a decent score here, and Hales is trying to do just that. That's just going down leg. Does he get anything on it, bat or pad? No, well, it just flies off anyway into the offside. So no run.
It does look like an incredibly good wicket from what I've seen so far. I mean, the spinner's had a bit of joy.
He has. Lloyd Pope looking for his second wicket, 1 for 5. Well, that's gone down the leg side and looking to help it on its way there. Doesn't get anything on it. It's given us a wide, leg side wide. The keeper did well. to shift away to his left to gather the ball, but it still will be an addition to the score, 57 for 2, midway through the 7th over. And this one is aerial to start off with, but it's okay. Uppish, square on the offside, and it, with the right arm throw, will allow them to go through for 1. So just ticking the board along, having made such a strong start, very strong start, with those first 4 overs of power play. Billings is on 6 from 8 balls faced, and Pope bowls to him now, looking to reverse it. He does so, straight to the man on the edge of the circle, but Hales is quickly down to the batting end, and there will be 1 more. So 59 for 2, 1 ball remaining of the 7th over. Hales 36, Billings on 7. And it's Hales facing now as the spin of Lloyd Pope has bowled down his inside edge onto his pads. Rolls away, just enough space found there to go through again for 1 more. So good running between Hales and Billings at the moment. We're just a little bit concerned at times, but they're okay. 60 for 2 after 7 overs. Billings on 7, Hales on 37 from 22 balls faced. And Hales, he's leading the tables here with most 6s, most boundaries scored. He's now got the most runs as well. He's just enjoying himself. He's had a very difficult time for all sorts of reasons over the last 2 or 3 seasons, Alex Hales, but you can't take away for this immense talent he's got, and totally brutal at times. Yes,
he's an incredibly he's hard to describe. He's one of those where he sort of muscles the ball over the boundaries. It doesn't look pretty at times, but he finds a way, and he obviously hits it very hard, and having that leverage in his arms as well helps him massively. And one thing I have enjoyed about Alex Hale is he's actually a very good bloke. I've spent a lot of time with him in franchise cricket, playing around the world. I've really enjoyed his company, and I think he's just got better and better as time's gone on.
Hales on 37 will drive that ball through the offside, through extra cover for 2 runs. Decent running, going back for 2, and the ball flies off, but Alex Hales does the right thing and says, look, that's come off my body, we're not going to get any cheeky runs for that. And the score moves to 62 for 2 now, the start of this 8th over. It's been bowled by Carlos Brathwaite. Carlos, for the Sixers this season, has taken 11 wickets, his best being a 4 for 18, an economy of 7. And in terms of his batting, well, he scored 21 runs so far from the matches played, but his bowling, looking for wickets here. That one is cut down to the short 3rd man, straight to the fielders though, and no run. So Carlos Brathwaite into the action alongside this very strong lineup of the Sixers tonight, although they've had to make one change, or they have made one change in Justin Avendano coming in. No Jack Edwards. Edwards is left out tonight, but it's Philippi and Vince and Hughes and Silk and Christian, to name just but a few. And this delivery next is played just in front of square on the offside for 1 run. And the scoreboard at the moment has disappeared, so I shall have to try and gather the score from elsewhere. What tends to happen is if the poor old statistician stroke scorer, who I think is probably scoring the game remotely and therefore just having to go off TV pictures or whatever, they get one thing wrong. Of course, it has to be reset. So I think that's probably what's going on at the moment. The latest score I've got was 63 for 2 midway through the 8th over, but I think we're a little bit beyond that. But it will be rectified, we have no doubt about that. Carlos Brathwaite, in the meantime, is coming in now to bowl to Billings, and that one is driven, and it is actually a 62, make that now 66 with a boundary for 2, with 2 balls left of the 8th over. And it's Hales again who finds that boundary rope. He's moved to 42 off 24 deliveries, and Brathwaite so far 6 off these 4 balls that he's faced. If that is right, I actually think that was Billings who scored that. So this is the score. The score is not quite right that we've got in front of us at the moment. That was a boundary for Billings. So he's moved to 8, and the score to 66 for 2. 2 balls left of the 8th. They are eventually catching up here. But that is definitely Billings who pushes that into the offside. He'll scamper and run hard and quickly for 1. And the board will tick across to whatever we do not know. The score will correct itself, but I think that's now should be 67 for 2. to say, I think we have to make some allowances these days, Ravi, for the fact that everybody's trying their best and often not in the place where they should be due to COVID, trying to do their work.
No, it's not an easy situation.
No, but as long as we get the right result at the end, all will be well. Hales on 40. He definitely is facing. It's definitely Carlos Brathwaite who's bowling to him. And that's worked away on middle and leg and through square on that onside for 1. That completes 8 overs, 69 for 2. Billings on 12 and Hales on 41, and Carlos Brathwaite has conceded 9 runs from that 1 over that he has bowled so far. Yeah, I was looking, I think it was yesterday's game, not that they tend to roll into one, but the days and the nights rolled into one, where the team batting thought, well, we're not having a good time of it here. We've got 3 wickets down. We haven't got the deepest of batting lineups, and therefore they took their power surge early on. And I'm starting to wonder, because it has been an area of debate of leaving it too late and leaving it for your middle order, your tail enders with that power surge. If maybe the 3 wickets down should be when you start to think at least of taking that power surge earlier rather than later. I don't know what you think, Ravi, on that.
Yeah, well, the theory is you want to have your best batters batting in that power surge, or at least your biggest hitters. And I think once you're 3 down and you're a bit...
Hales on 41. Pope gets bowls to him and he beats the fielder down there at short fine leg, and there's nobody behind him, therefore it's a 4. Another one to Hales on to 45. 73 for 2.
I think once you're 3 down that early on, you're probably thinking as a team, well, if we do lose another 2 wickets from now until probably the last 2 overs, then really we're not going to make use of that surge, so we may as well get some momentum now.
Yeah, I think that should be perhaps the way they start to go with it. This one is pushed square for a single by Hales onto 46, 74 for 2 in the 9th over.
So you can give yourself a little bit of momentum through those 2 overs of the surge and get yourself up to a decent total.
Billings 12, next delivery, reversing at this time, Billings, and he gets it away fine but not too far, only as far as the fielder on the edge of the circle there. So another 1 for Billings. He moves to 13 and the score up to 75 for 2. So this ball is ticking along. They made a good strong start. They're in a good position here, and Pope is going to bowl now to Hales, and he bowls now down onto 1 knee and he sweeps that. Has that found the gap? Yes, it has. In front of square on that onside, and he brings up a 50, and such an impressive half century for Alex Hales. 52 not out of 29 deliveries, and that one was a shot which clears the rope, I think, in the end. I think they're just checking on that. He got down on 1 knee and he just raises the bat around the ground. It's not absolutely packed at the moment, but he does move to 52, and this next delivery will again be a single. Pope moves quickly to his right hand side. They think about coming back for 2, but they think better of it. So it's 82 for 2 now. 1 ball left of the 9th over. That Hales half century, terrific from Alex Hales this season. That's his second 50 of the campaign, but he's been having a high average. He's been getting in the 30s and 40s, but delighted for himself that he can get over that half-century mark again this evening, with Billings on 13, playing deep and playing it onto the onside for a single, Sam Billings. So after 9 overs, it's 83 for 2, and Pope's figure's not looking quite so good now, 1 for 23, and with some disgust he takes his cap. I was going to say off the umpire, but I think it would have been off the umpire, a teammate who's been looking after that for him. But terrific stuff here from Alex Hales and from the Thunder, in a good position. Ravi Bopara.
Yeah, it's been an excellent innings. It's been aggressive from the start, especially when Jake Ball came on. He really took advantage of Jake Ball's over. And he's one of the few batters who have taken advantage of the 4 over power play. I mean, throughout the season, I've seen teams go quite slow through those 4 overs and sort of maybe setting themselves up for this 2 over surge later on. But I think the way the Thunder have played the first 4 overs has been different, which is why they've had so much success. I think you got to go hard in those first 4 overs, and you got to almost look at the surge later on and not worry about it too much from the start of your innings.
It's a question just won't go away, you know. I'm about to ask, because Billings on 14 will launch that one over the top on the offside, but there is a fielder out there, so it'll just be 1 run. In the year of World T20, there'll be people around the world with Alex Hales in this sort of form who just won't get it if England leave him out of the squad, for my money. They just will not get it, and he'll need an awful lot of explaining. But Hales is on 53 not out, and this next delivery on the leg stump and pushed away their square on the onside for a single, and the score moves to 85 for 2 in the 10th over. I mean, there's form, and this fella is in form.
Yeah, I mean, it will be absolutely criminal not to involve him in the England sides again. I mean, he keeps scoring runs. He knows how to score runs. He may have had his bad moments.
And it's Billings this time, who goes very high on this one off the bowling of O'Keefe. Will it fall into the hands of Dan Christian? Yes, it does. And Christian takes the catch just a few yards inside the boundary. Fell to him nicely, but Billings has gone for 15. A run of ball 15. O'Keefe has taken the wicket, and it's 3 for 85, or should I say 85 for 3 midway through the 10th over, and Billings has gone.
Yeah, good piece of bowling there. He just held it back a little bit, invited him to come down the wicket, and just looks as if there's a little bit in there for the spinners. It's got a little bit of hold in the wicket. I mean, Billings tried to hit one over extra cover a couple of balls before and didn't quite time it. It got a little bit of grip and got the outside of his bat, and I just wonder whether there's just enough hold in there for the spinners to put a little bit of pressure back on the Thunder batsmen.
You think spin is the way to go from what you're seeing so far? I'm just thinking about in 3 balls time, of course, the 10 over mark. There's the chance for the sub on the X Factor. Ben Manenti is in the Sixers lineup tonight as one of the X Factor players. Whether they might think of making a swap there, then, do you think, or
well,
not?
It's quite possible. I mean, if the rest of the batting lineup's all right-handers, they probably won't. But I think you've got to involve your spinners a little bit more. I'm surprised O'Keefe hasn't bowled more than 1.3 overs up to this stage.
Well, I tell you who might be susceptible here, if they do go that way, possibly is Jake Ball, who only having bowled 1 over. I mean, it does happen. I'm not having a go at him for this, but he went for 21 runs, and he's bowled that 1 over, could still be subbed. This one is pushed into the offside by Hales off the bowling of O'Keefe. I mean, that's the sort of time when you do not want to be subbed, when you've had an over like that, which, as we say, can happen. Hales will this time, a shout of a catch, and it is caught, and it's the end of Hales now. Well, a terrific start from the Thunder, but it's falling apart oh so quickly, and this over from O'Keefe, where he now has taken 2 for 9 from 1.5 overs. He's got rid of Hales, been caught out there in the deep. 85 for 4, 1 ball left of the 10th over, and Hales, having batted beautifully, has just been caught out there towards the mid-wicket boundary by Jordan Silk.
I think Hales is a victim of his own form there. I don't think he's tried to hit that as flat and as hard as he has. I think he's just gone to hit that into the gap, maybe flat and get a 1 bounce, 2 bounce, 4, but he's timed it so well, and unfortunately for him, he's hit it straight down deep mid-wicket's throat.
And boy, does he look dispirited as he walks off, and that's dreadful, really, because he's played such a wonderful knock, hasn't he? It's been terrific.
It's been a fantastic knock. He's put Thunder into a great position.
Yes, he has, but those 4 wickets down now, Ravi, that's a concern, isn't it, at 9.5 overs?
Well, it's not ideal. You don't want your number 7 or number 8 having to play the last 4 overs.
You don't. O'Keefe, though, has done a terrific job here. Steve O'Keefe. And Sams comes out to the middle. Now, he's missed a couple of games due to concussion. Just wanted to make sure that he was okay. So it's down as a concussion layoff. He missed half a game and then a couple of games there, but he's back again, playing his 8th game of the season. He's out there with the bat, and that one is pushed up towards long off for a single for Sams. So 10 overs gone at 86 for 4. Ross and Sams are the not out pair. They've only just gone out there, so whether now is the time to try out my theory, if you've got 3 wickets down or more, you need to take it earlier rather than later. We wait and see. And also on the X Factor, will we get any subs brought in? But Ravi Bopara, his thoughts on the first 10 overs, and then it'll be Dan Norcross.
Yeah, it looks a really good wicket. I've been watching and wondering what might be a good total on this wicket, but it looks as though it's going to be one of those 170, 180 type of wickets. It's a small ground, very easy paced wicket. Spinners are getting a little bit more out of the pitch than the seamers, I would say, but it's been a good start from both teams, actually. I mean, Thunder got off to an absolute flyer thanks to Alex Hales, but the Sixers have pulled it back by bowling some good spin in the middle.
Now then, I want to speculate on these X Factors, because I think this is a position where both sides might want to employ their X factor, and I'll tell you which way. I think Kevin Howes was spot on. Menenti possibly in for Jake Ball, who's bowled the 1 over. Gives you another spin option on a pitch where spinners have found decent purchase. And then for the Thunder, they're 4 down now. Coming in next is, well, Ben Cutting. And then after that, you have the bowlers. Now, they've got Oliver Davis on the bench, who has only played a few games, but he's a big hitting young man. Now, with Ben Cutting
can he bowl?
No, but Cutting can. So if you say to yourself, we're in danger here of only posting 140, 150, then having 6 bowlers isn't probably going to be enough. You've got to get to 170, 180.
Correct.
So then you give yourself, say you might say sub out Jonathan Cook. You'd have Sanger, Milne, Sams, McAndrew, Cutting. They'd have to do all the bowling, but you've given yourself that extra batting option, because lose 2 more wickets here and the Thunder could get to, not get to a total that could be defended whether you got 5 bowlers or 6.
It's a good point. I think the Thunder will be more leaning to a sub rather than the Sixers. I think the Sixers, having 2 spin options in the side already, is 8 overs of spin. And
well, Jackson Bird's going to start up again after the drinks break, and first delivery is worked into the onside by Daniel Sams. Sams, incidentally, he's a proper all-rounder. If he gets going, he can hit the ball many a mile, so maybe the Thunder won't need another batter, but I'm gonna have to go in search to try and find out if any subs have been made, because it's not always completely obvious. There's no sort of big fanfare. What I'd like to see is a sort of graphic with a boat hook, and you got the player is like yank him off and then the X Factor player is brought on with a sort of big golden microphone, sort of sing 2 notes. Here is Jackson Bird into Ross, who just guides us down to 3rd man. It was cramping him for room ever so slightly, back of a length, and he just opened the face of the bat and worked it down to 3rd man. No sign yet that I can see of any X Factor subs. 88 for 4.
How often does it happen?
Well, frequently it doesn't happen at all.
No.
And then, if you're poor old Stefan Schemmelt, who might well be listening and will be currently hanging his head and going, he's not going to mention this again, is he? As Ross drives to mid-off, they go for a sharp single. They get there despite the direct hit. That was very enterprising running. He's got home as Sam's, 89 for 4. Poor old Stefan Schemmelt, quite early on in the tournament, there had been no X Factor subs the first 5 or 6 games. And he said, do you know what I think? I think that we're going to go 61 games without a single sub. And literally 5 minutes after he said it, there were subs for each side. Bird in, worked into the onside by Alex Ross for a single. And his reasoning was impeccable, actually. He was very, very unfortunate that day. It was just one of those things that happens to us on mic. We like to come up with a big, bold statement and then get proved wrong almost immediately. But I haven't got the actual data in front of me, but I would say sort of 1 in 3, 1 in 4.
It seems like it's more for the desperate situation. If you've got a spare batter in there and
Bird in. And it's worked into the onside by Sams. They'll think of a second, because that ball's only got about 20 yards on the bat, but they stick to the single. 91 for 4.
You've got a spare batter in the side, and you've lost 3 or 4 very early wickets. Maybe
like the Thunder here, for example.
Well, even earlier than that, maybe in the first 6 overs or something. Then you think, well, we have to use that spare batter now.
I mean, I suppose the other way would be, if at the toss you haven't quite appreciated that this pitch is going to take a lot of spin, or the opposite, I suppose. Bird in, and that's again played with very soft hands by Ross to point, and there is no runs. Goes straight to the fielder. End of the over. 91 for 4. The Thunder were beautifully positioned halfway through the 10th over with Billings and Hales in, and then O'Keefe picked up those 2 wickets just before the timeout. drinks break, picking up Billings for 15, and then Alex Hales for a splendid 54 from 33 balls to make him this season's leading run scorer. Alex Hales frozen out of international cricket, but leading run scorer in the Big Bash. Yeah, I mean, I just wonder if, because and I mean this in the nicest possible way, but I think people understand pitches less than any other aspect of cricket, in my experience. You hear captains and pundits at the toss proclaim what a pitch is going to do. O'Keefe in, thick leading edge, comes up to the offside, there's no run. And they're proved wrong time and time again. Which is no surprise, because you gaze down at a sort of patch of dusty mud. How are you supposed to know what it's going to do? O'Keefe in, worked into the onside, and they'll pick up a single. I think a lot of the time sides go on the data of that ground, don't they now?
Yes, and I think a lot of reading pitches, I think you can get good at reading pitches, and what it does take is actually travelling around the world and seeing different surfaces and how different surfaces react to, how hard they are, or how deep your spikes can go in the wicket. Do they stick when they go in the wicket, or do they sit on top?
O'Keefe in, short, flat, cut away, and it's not quite going to be to diving Carlos Brathwaite at short third man. They'll get just the single, 93 for 4.
Sometimes I feel like there's not enough attention to detail given to a wicket. It's more like people have a look at it.
Yes, driven firmly off the back foot, going deep into his crease with Sams. He pushes it out to James Vince on the cover boundary for one more. 94 for 4. No boundaries coming for a while now.
They almost go with a visual and take and have a educated guess through there, but that simply doesn't work.
O'Keefe in, that's swept at, missed and gone. Alex Ross has got to go, finger goes up, sweeping across the line of the ball, and it's thudded into his, I think, probably back leg, the right leg that had a knee on the ground. It wasn't going to go over the top. His hope would have been that it was sliding down the leg side, delivered quite wide of the crease, but actually is it just impact is very tight, just about on line. Umpires given it. Umpires always give it when people sweep. If you played a forward defence,
don't play across the line.
No. What's marvellous about it is it's exactly the same at every level of cricket, from the most amateur you'll ever play, like when you're 9-10 years old, all the way through to a test match.
Coaching you while he's out there.
Yeah. The umpire sort of decides if you play across the line and miss it, you deserve to be out.
Yeah.
94 for 5 with that wicket. Ross goes.
Spinner's doing the job again.
Yeah, exactly.
And sorry, you're going back to the wickets. I mean, you can't just simply look at a surface and say, right, this is what it's going to do, because it doesn't work like that. I think you got to get a feel. You really got to get into the wicket and feel it, and if you can walk on it, you can walk on it, try walking on it. I think you get ideas from that. I've certainly got a lot of my ideas from walking on a wicket. So
where are you permitted to walk on?
You can walk behind the stumps, and if you're
a bit savvy.
Yeah, if you're being a bit savvy, you can go where you're going to bat.
Oh right, okay. Yeah. O'Keefe in, pushed into the offside by cutting straight to short extra, no run.
So you pretend like you're shadow batting, and then just might take a couple.
And what do you gather from that? You gather the hardness, do you?
Yeah, you gather the hardness, the stickiness of the wicket. If the spikes are getting sort of stuck in the wicket a little bit, so as you pull your foot out and they just stick a little bit, that's when you know the wicket's going to be a little bit tacky.
Right.
It may be a surface that might get better throughout the day, but you certainly know it's going to be a bit tacky, so it might take a bit of early spin.
How do you evaluate, because this is one that always interests me, when captains speculate on whether it will improve or deteriorate, how do you come to that conclusion?
Well, one of the big things, are you playing in the day or the night? That's another thing as well you've got to take into account, because you're going to get a lot of sun throughout the day if you're playing in the day, and that wicket should get less and less tacky as you go on. It will sort of firm up as the day goes on, probably get better. Whereas if you're playing in the evenings and you've started off with a tacky wicket, if you're going to get due.
Dan Christian is coming in for his first over on the pads. Big appeal. Ravi Bopara is giving it out, but the umpire is not remotely interested. Sam survives, 94 for 5.
I reckon it's a bit closer than you think.
See, this is the thing with you. You're both a bowler and a batter, so you just flip your decision-making process. It's got a bit of a stride. It's sliding down.
Sneaking down, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, what it did do was it hit the knee roller, went down, and I was told by an umpire, Jack Shantry, told me,
right.
I'll give you this in a minute, as Christian is in. That's an attempted pull, which does not come off for Sams, rolls out to the offside, another dot ball. He said, very simple rule of thumb for height. If the ball comes down off the pad, it's not going over the top. If it comes up off the pad, it is. You were right. Umpire Ravi Bopara, umpire's call. That's out as far as I'm concerned. Umpire's call is just a very good decision. Ever thought of being an umpire? I can't see you as an umpire.
I'm not going to be an umpire.
I mean that in the nicest possible way. Christian in, and that's pulled out, and might have got a little bit of something on it, might Daniel Sams. It's run away very fine down to the boundary for 4. Christian gives a rueful gasp. The umpire has given runs. I think there was a flick of a top edge and a diving Philippi diving away high to his left. You get nothing, a bit of glove, I think. Yeah, Philippi couldn't get to it. 4 more.
It was a good attempted bouncer, and it's because it was leg side of him, it was hard for him to sort of catch up with it. So he only got a really fine edge on it,
and a surprise bounce. What is it from Dan Christian?
Yeah, you just don't expect it from him, do you?
Doesn't do them that often, does he? He's in again, and that's back of a length, and that's tucked up Sams. He can only work it back to the bowler. No run. Good over from Dan Christian. He was unlucky to concede the 4. Could easily have picked up the wicket. There have been 3 other dot balls. Yes, I'm just imagining umpire Ravi Bopara in a test match, a hot test match, in a run fest. You'll just be triggering them, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
come on, let's go.
Come on, let's go. Let's get this over and done with. Especially if one side's out of it. You got to get on with it.
Absolutely. Christian in, pulled, but not with any great timing by Sams, in the air, and a nearly brilliant diving catch out in the deep. Great attempt, diving full length, about an inch or so off the ground, but it's bounced out of the fielder's hands. It's Jackson Bird out there, the opening bowler, and they'll get through for 2. Let's see this again. He didn't time it, really, didn't Sams? And Bird got to it, and he got both hands to it, but when you are diving full length forward, it's very hard to make sure that ball stays in the hand. And the rather bird-like Sams survives. And here is Christian into him again. He works his full delivery out to the onside, just beyond the 30-yard circle. And they're going to get through for 2, because there's nobody saving 1 there. Fielder had to come in off the boundary. Jackson Bird to field. 2 more, a brace of 2s at the end of the over. 102 for 5, the Thunder. Sams has 14, cutting yet to score.
That's the unluckiest 8 runs I've ever seen a bowler go for.
Yeah.
4 runs was a drop catch. The keeper got a glove to it. Then they got another 2 runs, which was a drop catch. And 1 that he's mistimed into the leg side, which he got 2 for.
It could easily have been a wicket maiden, is that what you're saying? A double wicket maiden. Yeah, well, Dan Christian's shaking his head somewhat, but he's seen it all. I feel a bit for Jackson Bird there. It was a drop catch, but you're the opening bowler, you're charging in, and once you've got 2 hands to it, you'll feel I should have held on, but that was 2 or 3 inches off the ground.
I think the Sixers will be disappointed with that, because normally it's Jordan Silk that fields in that position. And he's a little bit quicker and safer with his hands. He's one of the best fielders in Australia, so I think they'll be a little bit disappointed that he wasn't there.
O'Keefe to start his last over. He has 3 for 13 at the moment, and Ben Cutting just drives this full length ball straight back to the bowler. No run. The Thunder innings is currently really going nowhere. They were 85 for 2 after 9.2. They scored 17 runs in the best part of 4 overs and lost 3 crucial wickets. And that's in large part due to the spin of Steve O'Keefe, who has 3 for 13. He's picked up the wickets of Billings, Hales and Ross in double quick time. Tosses this up. Cutting works this up to wide long on for a single. Cutting biding his time. From the Thunder's point of view, Cutting and Sams can be in when the surge happens. That could resurrect the innings. It's not inconceivable. We've seen it before this season. 35-40 runs can come in those 2 overs. O'Keefe in again, and Sams punches off the back foot into the offside. To wide long off this time. 1 more to the total, 104 for 5.
And you can really see that the Sixers want another wicket before the surge. You can tell with their field positioning, they've got those extra cover catching, another extra cover sitting behind him. They've brought the sweep man closer.
Cutting on the strike, and he cuts, but thick under edge to the ground, to the offside, and there's no run. So what's the plan here, do you think, for the Thunder? Just get out of this over, let O'Keefe be gone? Okay, well, it looks like it. Cutting's just pushed this next ball straight to short extra cover. O'Keefe is getting through this over really quickly. I reckon this could be a 2-minute over. He's in to complete the over. Cutting just defends. Back to the bowler. End of the over. Interesting cricket this. O'Keefe 3 for 15 from his 4 overs. Been a terrific spell of bowling from the left arm spinner. And the Thunder, with only 6 overs remaining, are 104 for 5.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen in the past, and one of the things we know about Australian batsmen is if there is any turn in the wicket or any hold for the spinner, they do struggle. They really struggle to rotate the strike. They're used to the ball sliding on and playing through the line of it. So if it does take any turn, they genuinely really struggle. So I don't think he was just patting it back there. I think they're just struggling to manoeuvre the spin, which has been one of those things that has been with Australian batters for many years now, because they simply don't play on wickets like that, not very often.
Lloyd Pope is going to start his 4th and final over. The spinners making hay today. He's picked up one of the other 2 wickets to fall, and his first ball is slapped into the offside by Sams, and there is no run. 104 for 5. I know last time I was on with Kevin Howells, he was explaining he thought some data was going to be published at the start of this week on the surge. Full, driven, firmly in the air, out through extra cover, much needed boundary for Daniel Sams. It was too full, too wide. He was able to free his arms, and the dangerous Daniel Sams moves to 19, 108 for 5. And he was positing that he thought that the optimum time to take the surge was sort of the 15th and 16th overs. Well, we're in the 15th over now. They've not yet taken it, but maybe they're waiting until the spinners are off. It'll be the last over of spin for a while. Pope in, that's cut nicely off the back foot, but straight to the fielder on the cover boundary along the ground by Sams for a single. He moves to 20, 109 for 5 halfway through the 15th over.
I think the power surge is a great idea. I really like it. I really like it.
It would suit you, especially because you've been going in a little bit further down the order. Worked into the onside for a single up to long on, and you get the chance of having a couple of overs of power play.
Exactly right. And you know, as a middle order batsman, you think, why do the openers get?
Yeah, they get it all, don't they? They get the hard ball,
yeah,
the fielding up. Yeah. Pope Ed tossed up, driven firmly by Sams. Again out through extra cover. They should pick up a couple of runs here as Brathwaite moves to his left from long off to field. They do. 112 for 5. Sams to 22. 1 ball remains in the 15th over.
And it's one of those rules that you get value for just good cricket shots in the middle as well.
Pope in, and that's Googly, which is pushed back to the bowler by Sams. End of the over, end of Pope's spell. 1 for 31 from 4. Cutting has 2 from 7. Sams 22 from 19. 5 overs remain. The Thunder started so brightly, just getting all clogged up here at 112 for 5. But they do have the 2 overs of surge to come. To speculate on that and many more, it will be Ravi Bopara and then Kevin Howells.
Yeah, and the surge is one of those rules. I think for a middle order batsman, he'll be licking his lips. so often as a middle order batsman, you go in and you play a really good shot. You absolutely time the ball to perfection. You get 1 run for it because it goes out to deep cover or deep square leg or wherever it's gone. Whereas if you had said, well, if I was in the power play there, I would have got 4 runs for that. And so the middle order batsmen around the world will be licking their lips and hoping that this rule comes into other leagues in the world or even into international cricket.
Carlos Brathwaite, thank you, Ravi, is in to bowl. Cutting, edged and past the fielder there on the edge of the circle at backward point and races away to the boundary. It's a 4. They still haven't taken the power surge. We're into the 16th over. 116 for 5, Cutting on 6 and Sams on 22, and Carlos Brathwaite is bowling his 2nd over. Usman Khawaja made 2. Alex Hales, fantastic 54, though obviously he'd be disappointed not to have gone on, having done so well from those 33 balls he faced. 5 4s and 3 6s. Callum Ferguson 3, Billings made 15. Brathwaite to Cutting. Cutting will find a bit of space on the onside. How many can he get for this? Pushes hard for 1 and settles for 1. So the score now 117 for 5 in the 16th over. Alex Ross made 3. Then we got Sams and Cutting, the not out pair at the moment. So say Cutting on 7, Sams on 22. In terms of the bowling, Jackson Bird has bowled out his 4 overs, 1 for 23. That 1 drop catch there. Steve O'Keefe, actually a competition T20 format best, a T20 best of 3 for 15. Brathwaite in down the leg side, and we wait to see what signal we're going to get from the umpire. A wide indeed signalled there. 118 for 5 in the 16th over. So Steve O'Keefe, 4 overs, 3 for 15. That's a T20 best for him. Jake Ball bowled 1 over to Alex Hales, went for 21 runs. Lloyd Pope, 4 overs, 1 for 31, and Dan Christian 1 over for 8 runs. But it's Brathwaite bowling his 2nd over and bowling now to Sams, brought back into the team following a layoff with concussion for a couple of games. He picks up a single into the offside and his score moves to 23 and the score to 119 for 5 midway through this 16th over. I'm just thinking about this almost not a complete but a big change in dynamic possibly to the game if the power surge is adopted in other competitions around the world, as Brathwaite again comes in bowl to Cutting on the leg stump and stop there. It's hard and firm but a good stop. That extra cover, but not cleanly enough. Therefore, they can go through for 1, and the score 120 for 5. 2 balls left of the 16th over. Could it be that youngsters are growing up and saying to themselves, do you know what, I want to be a middle order batter in the T20 competition with those power surge overs, that we can make a real name for yourself in the game? I don't think we're quite there, and of course every batter wants to bat up as high as possible. Well, a swing on the bat there from Sams and through to the keeper, there'll be no run. But it does add a whole new thought process, really, doesn't it, to where you're going to score your runs, where you want some of your certain individual batters to be batting in a lineup.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think what you will see is more hundreds scored from number 3s and 4s and maybe even number 5s in T20 cricket, because at the moment if you go down stats and we talk about T20 hundreds.
Brathwaite in bowls and worked by Sams on the onside for 1. They'll look for a 2nd, come back for 2. The fielder with the right arm throw. They make their ground. 16 overs gone, and that's now 122 for 5. Ravi.
Yeah, and I think you might see more hundreds from other batsmen other than just the openers, because if you look at the stats, it's always the openers that score the hundreds. Nobody else really gets an opportunity to score 100 in T20 cricket. So I think the rule will definitely bring more hundreds to the game, but you might see more often from 3 and 4 might get an opportunity to score 100. So, and I think that's a beautiful thing in the game as well.
Jake Ball, that 1 over for 21 runs. Just waiting to see if we're going to see him brought in now. And I think we are going to see him brought in. I'm not too sure as the power surge has yet been taken. They've got no information on that. I think that certainly the umpire's body language suggests that he was ready for his big show, but I don't think it has, you know. I still don't think it has. As ball comes in, starts his approach now, he's going to bowl to Cutting, who's on 8. Bowls now, edged, and a very good take and a very good catch. And that's the way to come back for Jake Ball, following a horror over against Alex Hales. He gets rid of Cutting, caught by a good catch from the keeper, Philippi, and the score now 122 for 6.
Great comeback from Jake Ball there. Just bowling it a little bit outside off stump, just probably a foot outside off stump, tempting a drive. Because this wicket has enough bounce in it, it just managed to catch the edge in a good diving catch from the keeper.
I'm puzzled here, Ravi, about this power surge and it not happening.
Well, in hindsight, Ben Cutting's probably thinking I should have taken it. He may have played a more aggressive shot, a more positive shot at the ball, and got more for it. But
and how much more pressure, or not pressure, but thought process would have added to Jake Ball, bearing in mind that over he went for as well?
Absolutely, he would have been under immense pressure, having already gone for 20 odd in his first over and having to come back and bowl a power surge over. I mean, that was the right time to take it, in my opinion, but I'm not the one playing out there.
No, and Ravi, you're spot on. You know 100 times, if not more than I, and all that sort of stuff. But they're struggling. Some of these teams, I think, are really struggling with how to cope with this power surge and when to use it. It's fascinating for us to talk about and for us to ponder on, but I think it's getting into the heads of some of them a little bit, and they're not liking it from that point of view.
It will. It absolutely will. As a batsman, I can speak as not from experience of being in a game that has a power surge, but as a batsman, there are times where you know certain things are going to happen in an over's time or 2 overs time, and it starts to play with your mind, because you know there's a certain bowler that you really, really fancy, and you know he's got 2 overs left up his sleeve. He has to bowl one of the overs now, or he has to bowl one of the overs in an over's time, and you think, actually, that's the guy I want to face. That's the, I want to take him down.
Well, Ball will eventually get to bowl this second over of the 17th over, and that's much wider of the keeper. There's no way even Philippi can get to that, and it runs fine, having beaten him, but it runs fine for 4. And it's McAndrew who's out there now, and he takes his score, having faced just that 1 ball to 4, so he's off the mark. 126 for 6 in the 17th over.
So little things can play on your mind, and then you don't quite commit to what's happening in the present, and you can play a feather at a ball, a little bit like what we just saw. You sort of just have a waft at a ball rather than actually smacking it and playing positively.
Yeah, well, the Thunder here, 126 for 6. We've got some work to do. They've got 4 balls left to the 17th over. McAndrew can hit a ball well, and he'll get a single to mid-wicket, and he moves to 5. And 127 for 6 in the 17th over. I've already seen Sams this year put together a really good knock, so he's more than capable. We know that of Daniel Sams, and he's back in the team. He's scored a 50, a 65 not out earlier in the campaign. So let's see if he can repeat that this evening here for the Thunder, because we do think that you do need some runs on here. A low score is not going to do the job for you, and the Thunder have the possibility to go on, but 6 wickets down, they need to be mindful of that. Sams is on 25, and Ball is bowling to him now. Ball's on middle and leg, helped on its way on the onside. Fielder comes up sharp, they'll have to come back quickly for 2, they do, and that's Sams to 27, and the score to 129 for 6 in the 17th.
I'm pretty sure right now Ben Cutting will be sitting in the dressing room thinking, I missed out on the power surge. I can just imagine it being every middle order batsman's horror and nightmare to get out just before the power surge overs.
Ravi, the question I think I have to ask is, why wouldn't you have taken it at that point? Why wouldn't you have done?
I can only imagine that they were worried that they were already 5 down, and if the power surge brought another wicket, then they'd have to play the last 4 overs, 5 overs, or 3 or 4 overs with.
The Sams plays and misses and through to the keeper. That throws, for me, what I hear from players though is that you can't go out there with that negative thought process.
You can't. You can't, and that's, you certainly should be thinking positively. But it happens. I mean, there's times when you don't realise you're thinking negatively, and
Yeah, sure. And obviously what you're doing there is you're just trying to think how it couldn't have been taken. That was the question I asked you, but it's not looking so clever now. And this one is turned around the corner, straight to the fielder. Good running from McAndrew, running to the danger end, and he makes his ground, and that 17 overs gone 130 for 6. McAndrew 5, Sam's on 28. And we could still, with these 3 overs remaining, ball, by the way, now has gone 1 for 29. So that was 8 runs coming from that second over of his. But we you know,
tricky situation now. I mean, do you take it now and you know, then you've got 2 overs of surge and then 1 over left, or do you go right now? We're going to leave it to the end, and then what they're going to do in this over? Are they going to play within themselves to make sure they don't lose a wicket? So they've got the 2 batsmen at the crease when the power surge starts. I mean, I reckon they're going to take it now. I think go now, go hard, try getting 35, 40 runs off it if you can.
They are going to take it now, I think, Ravi. I think that is going to happen. Because there's no point in holding it back, is there? I mean, Dan Christian has only bowled 1 over. So, no, hold on. They haven't taken it again.
Yeah. I think it's a bad move.
Well, Sams is on 28, and Dan Christian is now bowling to him. Up onto his toes, hammered down into the ground towards extra cover, but with no real timing on it. But it will be a single, and the score moves to 131 for 6 in the 18th over.
I mean, it might well work out if these 2 are still at the crease at the end of this over, but it just means that you're going to play the 18th over a little bit within yourself, because you really don't want a new batsman coming in once the power surge starts. You really need these 2 at the crease.
McAndrew is on 5 not out. He's only faced a couple of balls, and Dan Christian is bowling to him now, and that's on the leg stump. Helped on its way, it's in the air, but it's safe, and it's 6. A couple of yards to the right-hand side, but with pace of the fielder out there on the boundary. And a 6 for McAndrew, 137 for 6 in the 18th.
It's an amazingly well-crafted shot there. To get that for 6 from sort of knee-high leg stump, to be able to swivel round and lift that for 6 is an incredible shot. And even Dan Christian's look on Dan Christian's face is, how have you managed to hit that for 6?
McAndrew is on 11 following that 6. This time it's wide of the off stump, a little slower. Can't time that. Down into the ground and back to Christian. The point you're making there, just looking at that, and what to me looks just so impressive, is how do you do it seemingly with hardly any space? It's so tight, the body is so tight, and still you get it away.
It was an amazing bit of skill. I know he's not he's a full-on batsman, he's more of a lower order hitter, but that's why he's a good lower order hitter, because he can do things like that.
Christian in again to McAndrew, driven back to Christian, parries it away. They will go through for 1 and only 1. Dan Christian, who takes a look at his finger following that stop, that came back at him at some pace. 138 for 6. 2 balls left to the 18th over. I think I heard the other day people referring to Dan Christian, Ravi, as Siri, as in you're smart, whatever. You know, the idea being, I think, got an answer for everything, or all the answers, maybe a better way of putting it. This next delivery, that's too wide, and that's surely got to be signalled wide, and it is. So more to the total here now with that wide. But is that a nickname that's starting to grow in dressing rooms, or that's the first time you've heard it?
It's the first time I've heard that be a nickname. That's a brilliant nickname, that. Never thought of that.
Can you think, and it's up to you if you've got a good lawyer, any players you've played with that maybe you want to give that nickname to, or will have done in the past?
No, I think I'll get that nickname. I think it'll be given to me.
Sams is on 29. Next delivery is bowled to him. That's full Yorker length delivery. Worked away on the onside and coming back for 2. There's a big gap out there. Eventually Carlos Brathwaite will get to it. 17.5 overs, 141 for 6.
I can imagine my teammates calling me serious when I keep running. No, you can't bowl him at this stage. You've got to bowl him at this stage, and then you've got to bring him back for the 11th over, because hopefully we'll have this batsman and he struggles against left arm spin, he struggles against off spin. We're like, not now, Siri.
Sam's on 31. Next delivery, bowls Yorker, and that's worked away on the onside. and Jordan Silk comes up as the fielding. They'll get a run for that. 142 for 6 after 18 overs. McAndrew on 12 and Sam's on 32. And Christian's gone for 20 runs from his 2 overs. A little unfortunate with some drop catches, and amongst other things in his first over for Dan Christian.
Do you think they'll take the surge?
Well, yes, it's compulsory now. I mean, I think the umpire. Well, I say it's compulsory. I've always presumed it would be compulsory to have to take it at this stage.
Could you imagine the batsman just, nah, it's fine, I'll just clear the ropes?
Yeah, well, I think they're having that joke with the umpire right now, just looking at the body language. But no, we are going to get the power surge, and it has been signalled now and done in quite a stylish way, and done 3 or 4 times, and he's loving it as the umpire. I've never seen it signalled quite like that in the past. 2 to the right, 1 to the left, another 1 to the right, another 2 to the left. They need to work on that and get some consistency. But it's enough to tell us it's the power surge. So it's 2 fielders out again, and it's 142 for 6 after 18 overs. An average first innings score on this ground, I said, was 175. And bearing in mind the start that Alex Hales made for the Thunder, they will want to try and make the most of this and get themselves up around the 160 mark and nearest that 170. Jake Ball 1 for 29 from 2 overs, had a terrible time against Alex Hales, came back well, got a wicket with the first ball of his second over, and now is to bowl his third. He will have been in this situation before, of course, many times, and I think that's one aspect of Jake Ball's game, Ravi, that has really come on in the last couple of years in this format and elsewhere, taking the responsibility and being unfazed.
Yeah, I think he's become a good death bowler now. I think he's more effective down the back end than he is more at the top end. And I think Alex Hales obviously saw that as well and said, look, this is the time to go after him, because he's definitely a better bowler down the back end of the innings.
He's going to bowl to Sams, who's on 32, comes round the wicket, a little bit of width, and that's lofted high away on the offside. One bounce into the hands of the man on the cover point boundary. Didn't quite get out to him. So it's a single, and the score's 143 for 6.
I think the Thunder have got a great opportunity to get up to 170, 175 here with the next 11 balls. I mean, they were going to be going hell for leather. You got the field up. It's a great opportunity to get 25, 30 runs, even more.
Well, Jake Ball this season ahead of this game had taken 4 wickets. His best has been a 3 for 25, an economy of 11. Because the sort of bowling that Jake does, he can be expensive, but he's also there to take the wickets, and that's what they need now. They need to get some wickets to prevent any power surge of any great meaning for the Thunder. Again, looking for that ball as he comes round the wicket just wide of the off stump, and it's just driven for 1 into the offside. So 144 for 6 now, 2 balls into the 19th over.
Good bowling there from Jake Ball. I think he's gone round the wicket to the right-hander and gone for the wide line so far twice. He's certainly trying to bowl to his field. He's got all the men behind the batsman up, so you've got a short third man, short fine leg, you've got your backward point and deep and a square leg.
Ball to Sams again. This time it's on the leg stump, it's in the air and it's out towards the mid-wicket boundary and over it for a 6. 150 for 6 now, midway through the 19th over. Well, Jake Ball, what a night he's going to have to talk about afterwards and think. But that was low down on the leg stump and just, lofted over the top of Jordan Silk out there. What about this for a shot?
That's a beautiful shot. I mean, to get that sort of power with that on a low full toss like that, it's just a flick of the wrists. I mean, that's a highly skilled shot.
Ball to Sams again. This time it's on the off stump and driven out on the offside for a single. And Sams to 40, 151 for 6 now. 2 balls left of this first over of power surge. It's the penultimate over of the innings. There's going to be a change of bat here for McAndrew, who was doing okay with the other one, but he wants a new one. He wants his power surge bat. That very special bat just for the power surge. And it's Jake Ball who's going to come in and bowl around the wicket to him now, to McAndrew. And again looking for that wide delivery, and there will be no run. If you're a batter and you know, and you're going to guess that it's going to come that that angle.
Yeah.
What can you do, Ravi?
I mean, one of the things he can do is just set himself up body-wise, set yourself up a little bit for that, so you can enforce a little bit more power through the offside, because one thing you don't want to do is open your body up too much and then you haven't got any power going through the offside. So that's one option you can do.
Ball to McAndrew now on 13. This time it's on the off stump, not quite so wide, and it's going to be 4 runs through mid-wicket. The boundary there, another one, and McAndrew moves to 17, and the score to 155 for 6, and Jake Ball 1 wicket for 42 from 3 overs. Just one of those nights, I'm afraid, for a bowler and for Jake Ball.
Yeah, it can happen. He's had some difficult overs to bowl, and it hasn't gone his way. You know, there's days where it will go your way and you'll get wickets in those times, but there'll be other days in T20 cricket where you'll just get the rough end of it and go for a few runs. So just to touch up on some of the things you can do if someone's going for wide Yorkers from that sort of angle is the other option is that you can come down the wicket and close the angle down, so there's less of an angle. You could stand outside off stump, but then that will leave your leg stump exposed from around the wicket, so that's always a dangerous way to do it, but it's an option.
A constant battle of wits between the batter and the bowler. And of course, you've got to try and work out what you think they might be bowling anyway. Brathwaite it is. Well, I'm not too sure they'll be thinking of bowling that wide down the leg side, but that is a wide, leg side wide to get matters underway for this final over. 156 for 6.
It's an interesting ploy. I mean, both bowlers have decided to come round the wicket, and I think it's an underrated move, to be honest. I don't think enough bowlers do it, come round the wicket and bowl death.
Brathwaite again comes around the wicket on that leg stump, and that's clipped away. A square on the onside. They'll come back for 2, have to work hard. Bat has to be on the ground as it's run over the line, and it is 2 runs, 158 for 6.
And I think one of the reasons why bowlers don't do it is because it takes out the opportunity of an LBW or possibly even a bowled. You know, you sort of take the wickets column out of it a little bit, because you're taking the stumps out of play by coming around the wicket to the right-hander. But I still think it's a very underrated move. It's quite hard to line up against a right-arm bowler coming from that side of the wicket. I mean, he can fire it wide, he can fire it at your toes. It can be sometimes a difficult thing to do.
Well, that's the option that Brathwaite and Jake Ball, previous over, are going for. Connors Brathwaite's figures read no wicket for 22 runs from 2.1 overs so far, but it's Sams who's having a good campaign. You know, obviously, it's right that he's had to miss the last couple of games to make sure he was okay following that blow he took to the helmet whilst batting the other night, but he's missed a couple of games after that as a result as well. But he's on 42 not out. Gone high here, high, and on the onside of straight. How far has that gone? Well, I think it's bounced just in front of the rope. I need to see it again. There wasn't a fielder out there. It was way behind and beyond Dan Christian, who was looking after matters, but a little bit further in, and that's going to be a 4. It does fall inside the boundary ropes. That's 12 4s, 5 6s. Just check on that. Yeah, 162 for 6. 4 balls left of the innings.
And that's precisely what I was talking about for the middle order batsman. I mean, normally that's out if it's, you know, any other time in the game where mid-on's normally back and you mistime it, that's normally out, but he's got 4 runs for that and moved on to 46.
Sams 46 not out of 33 deliveries. 13 runs came from the first power surge. Let's see how many in total they're going to get from these 2 overs that they left it right to the end on taking the power surge. We thought that was an error, particularly when Cutting was out there with Sams, and Cutting lost his wicket and they still hadn't taken the power surge. Brathwaite bowls again, just wide of the leg stump, but not wide, right. I mean, here Sams is trying to create a bit of room for himself, trying to nutmeg himself in the end to try and get the ball through his legs. It's hard work when the ball is bowled in just the spot you're looking for, as indeed Brathwaite got. It's not easy, is it?
No, that for me is the perfect ball. I mean, to fire it in at his ankles there. He hasn't got any room to go anywhere, and it's gone through his legs in the end.
162 for 6, and that one lifts a little bit more and away and over the top of middle and off, but through to the keeper and a dot ball. Well, Brathwaite's doing okay here. A couple of dot balls that they'll do the job as well at this stage in the innings.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic over so far. I think he was unlucky to go for 4 down the ground. It was completely mistimed, and it sort of just cracked over the boundary rope. So it's been a fantastic over so far.
Of which there are 2 balls remaining. And Sams is on 46. Brathwaite has a look at the ball, gives it a bit of a shine or whatever on his trousers, and he comes in now to bowl around about middle and off this time, and that's driven straight to the field. Well, they won't go through for 1. That's 3 dot balls now here. Terrific stuff from Brathwaite, and not what the Thunder were after.
No, it's been brilliant. I mean, he's got that right in the block hole as well. The ball before was almost a perfect bounce, so got great height on it, where the batsman really couldn't control his shot, so he couldn't even get back on it in the end. So it's been probably one of the best death overs I've seen for a while.
Yeah, and it's not working power surge wise for the Thunder. Last ball of the innings. This is in the air, but it is going to be 4. Through, long off. So a boundary to finish off, but still Brathwaite with a very decent over. He's gone for 30 runs from his 3 overs, and the score, the Thunder total, is 166 for 6. It's Daniel Sams 50, exactly 50 off 37 deliveries with that boundary. McAndrew not out on 17. Daniel Sams also playing his 50th T20 match this evening, so that's got a bit of a rounding off of things for him as well. But Daniel Sams, just a word about that innings, because it was quite a tricky job. He had to try and steer the Thunder through to get a score, and I'll also ask you 2 questions in one. What do you think of that overall total?
Yeah, it was a really, really good innings in the context of the game. When he came in, they'd just lost a few wickets. He had to almost rebuild for the Thunder, even though they were going really well. He had to rebuild, and in that situation, that's what you want from your middle order. You want him to be versatile. You want him to be able to score runs quickly when it's needed, or even, sort of work his way into his innings and protect the wickets column a little bit, and that's exactly what he did there. In terms of the total, I think it's a challenging total. I think if the Thunder can bowl their spin overs really well, they'll stand a good chance, but overall I think it's going to be a tight game. It's hard to call it which way it's going to go. It's small boundaries, pretty good wicket, and it's one of those totals that just sits in the middle for me. It's neither here or there.
Interesting. I mean, remind ourselves, Ravi, these are the top two teams in the ladder as well. We should expect in this Sydney derby, although it's being played in Canberra, it to be a tight game, and 2 teams have done very well in the competition really this season, so we should expect close contest. Let's wait and see if that's the way it plays out. Many thanks to Ravi Bapara. Ravi back with us in around 10 minutes or so. Let's quickly just run down the scores. Usman Khawaja made 2, Alex Hales 54 for Alex today of 33 deliveries, 5 fours, 3 sixes. Callum Ferguson made only 3. Sam Billings 15. Alex Ross 3. Ben Cutting was out for 8. Nathan McAndrew 17 not out of 8 balls, and Daniel Sams is 50 of 37 deliveries, and that included 4 fours and a 6. Daniel Sams exactly 50 not out. In terms of the bowling, Jackson Bird 4 overs 1 for 23. Steve O'Keefe 4 overs 3 for 15. Jake Ball 3 overs 1 for 42. Lloyd Pope 4 overs 1 for 31. Carlos Brathwaite 3 overs no wickets for 30, and Dan Christian 2 overs went for 20 runs. So there we are, the Sixers having won the toss, elected to bowl first. Their chance to bat and reply coming up very shortly. Now, we've been enjoying going through the archives during this Big Bash season and listening to some of our favourite interviews as we continue to celebrate 40 years of the iconic View from the Boundary feature from Test Match Special. And don't forget, more from TMS tomorrow morning from Sri Lanka. We're really looking forward to that. In August 2016, though, TMS welcomed a guest for whom interviewing the big names in politics is a daily activity. Michelle Hussain is one of the regular hosts of the Today programme on Radio 4, getting up in the middle of the night to be ready to grill those in charge from 6 a.m. Michelle brought her family along to the Oval Test between England and Pakistan and took a seat next to Simon Mann, who began by asking how she felt about being the one answering the questions.
I feel that it is a good experience for someone like me to be on the other side of the microphone and have a taste of what we put our guests through quite regularly. But it's a slightly uncomfortable experience because I am, of course, much more used to being the one asking the questions rather than answering them.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, you've got to speak for about half an hour as well.
That is much longer than I would ever get to interview someone, let alone be interviewed.
Yeah. I mean, how long would you normally get? Like about 3 minutes or something? Or longer?
It totally depends what the interview is and where in the programme it is. If we're talking about the Today programme, one of the best pieces of advice I was given before I began was from Alan Little, who I think is one of the best broadcasters in the country. And he said that in the morning when you see that pile of briefs on your desk, you have to treat it as a triage, and you look at those briefs and there are ones that you're going to spend 3 minutes thinking about and they're the ones that you're going to spend 20 minutes thinking about. So the longest chunk of time that we have is the 8:10, which generally is about a 10-minute interview, unless it's the Prime Minister or the Director General of MI5 or someone like that, in which case they're allowed a bit of extra time.
Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. We'll talk about your experiences on the Today programme and presenting the news. But let's talk about cricket to start with. You're here with your 3 sons today and your husband. I think Ed mentioned, didn't he, before they went off for lunch, that one of your sons is wearing an England top and one of your sons is wearing a Pakistan
and those
top.
two are twins, so and which I thought was rather fitting for today. It's they're lucky they're able to feel that whichever team wins this one, they've got a vested interest in
Although
them.
I did see your son, who was wearing the England shirt, I did see him smiling when that wicket went down just before lunch.
Yes, that's the problem with being actually in the commentary box, when in danger of revealing too much.
Yeah. So who are you supporting?
Well, I can honestly say to you that I look out, and it's been such a glorious morning at the Oval. It's just a beautiful sight to see these two teams at the peak of performances of cricket, and just to look out and feel that both of these countries are a part of me, and both of them have helped make me what I am today. So I think it's a great atmosphere here, and I'm proud of being part of both of these countries and both of these being a part of me.
Yeah. Would you watch much cricket when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I remember I grew up in the Emirates, but it was long before it became the sort of cricketing hub that it is today. But I remember being taken to an England-Pakistan Test match at Lord's. It must have been towards the end of the 80s. I remember thinking a day at the Test was quite hard work, actually.
So you'd been what would you have been at the time?
I was born in 1973, so I reckon I must have been early teens.
Yeah.
I can't remember the year that this was, but I think I wasn't the sort of fan that my sons are. Doing fantasy cricket teams every moment they can and absorbing all the statistics. But I think if you're of South Asian heritage, cricket really runs in your veins. And so I think that even if you're not a huge fan, it's just somewhere in the lifeblood. And then I married someone who's not only a big fan but plays, and my sons play cricket all year round, actually. So
you've been drawn into cricket by them?
Yes, it's very much a part of my life all year round. So they do nets in the winter, and so I think it's whether it's watching something like this or watching them play. Yeah, I suppose I'm a cricket mum really now. So
you have to drive them to nets and wait for them and watch them and encourage them.
Yeah, and I won't even get into what it's like dealing with 4 lots of cricket whites in the laundry in the summer.
Well, they teach them to wash them themselves.
You're right. I need to get to that point.
Yeah.
You're right. Good point. And I'll say you said it.
Yeah,
it's not me making you do this. It's Simon Mann.
Absolutely. Wash your own cricket whites. But what about your parents? Are they big cricket? Your dad was a doctor, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Your mum started off as a TV presenter, and then became a teacher.
In the very early years of Pakistan television in the 1960s, she was one of its early producers. And today is Pakistan's Independence Day, so perhaps that is also perhaps the team are faring well, partly because the stars are aligning for them. But yeah, my father's a doctor, not terribly big on cricket at all. But I think I grew up as an expatriate kid, so I grew up. I was born in Northampton, but then I went to live in Abu Dhabi, and then I came to live in the UK essentially when I came to boarding school here when I was 12.
You went to boarding school. What was that like?
Yes, it was. For me, it was a great experience in the sense that it made me very independent, and I think that has stayed with me throughout my life. But I loved my school, and I was very happy. But I do remember that saying goodbye to my parents at the airport and getting on a plane, and I wouldn't see them for 3 months, usually 2 to 3 months at a time. And I do remember how heartbreaking that was, and I would always be in tears, but not in front of them. And in fact, I think my mother realised, but my father was blissfully unaware of all of this until we did the Sunday Times relative values section together, and I told the Sunday Times that I used to, cry for most of the journey to the UK back to school. And he said to me afterwards, I never realised. At which point I thought, your child is not seeing you for 3 months. How did you think your child was going to be feeling? But it's one of those things that, I never let him know. But I'm very close to my parents. It certainly didn't adversely affect my relationship with them. Quite the opposite, because I appreciated them in a way.
Did you never say to them, "Oh, why did you send me?"
No, because I knew my parents were living in Saudi Arabia at the time,
right.
and they really wanted me to have a British education. And at that time, there was no British school beyond primary school, and my education was the most important thing for them, and they weren't going to compromise on that. So if I'd said to them, actually, I want to stay with you and go to school, that would have been compromising on my education, and that would never have been right for them. And so they wanted the best for me. They wanted to give me the best that they could, and they had really high expectations for me. And I would that again, I think, is part of what's made me what I am.
In your interviewing, you've interviewed Sachin Tendulkar and Kevin Peterson
and Moeen Ali just before this series began, actually. Sachin and Moeen are both quite hard to interview because they're both very modest about their achievements, and while that is, I think, an admirable personality trait, it's not so easy in your interviewee when you want them to talk about their achievements. And so, both of them are, I was very struck by that you really had to draw, to actually, for them to acknowledge their greatness was quite hard work, but in a way that's very personally charming.
I noticed you missed Kevin out off that list, the list of 3.
I could not associate that particular trait with Kevin Peterson, but I found him incredibly impressive to interview, and he, also very charming. And after that interview, I thought, gosh, managing someone like him is probably no different to managing one of the big beasts of broadcasting. It's talent management, and it's clearly not without its challenges. But I think it's a great shame, for whatever reason, that we didn't see more of him play at in this sort of arena in his peak years.
Were they trickier interviews? I think sometimes sports people, we feel this. They don't have to come on and be interviewed. They do their talking out there, and yet perhaps in your trade, politicians, they need to come on. They need that oxygen of publicity.
Yes. And there's a formula, or there's a grammar to a political interview that is well understood by both sides, and I that sort of interview is easier in that sense that there are understandable parameters they need to be on, the politicians, and you need them on as well, so each side has something in it. But I think sports people, to some extent, and I did a lot of interviewing of champions, for example, when I worked on London 2012, and I had this fantastic experience of sitting on the BBC Sports sofa and getting to interview one gold medalist after another. I think the hardest, sometimes the sorts of people we interview on today who've gone through terrible experiences, and essentially what you're doing in the time you have with them is asking them to relive that terrible experience, which is a very big ask. But I think people from the world of entertainment are probably the hardest and the most unpredictable. I once interviewed one of the Chapman brothers about a new exhibition, and as we came to him on the Today programme, I could hear him munching what I think were cornflakes
Right.
as the interview began. So, perhaps it was interview as performance art.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they are the most unpredictable, I think.
Well, welcome back to the Manuka Oval, where the Sydney Thunder are playing the Sydney Sixers in the Big Bash League. Top of the table clash between the two Sydney sides. And in that first innings, the Sydney Sixers chose to bowl. The Thunder got off to a stuttering start. I mean, Alex Hales went Burko at the top of the order, then they lost a couple of quick wickets in and around the end of the power play. Nicely placed on 85 for 2 with Sam Billings and Hales together there in that flurry of wickets thanks to Steve O'Keefe. And recovered somewhat at the end with a fighting half century, 50 not out from Daniel Sams, 17 not out from Nathan McAndrew, getting them up to 166 for 6 in their 20 overs. But I have to tell you, the news is imperfect. There's a little bit of rain in the air. There's covers on the pitch. Not a lot of covers. It's just a sort of a handkerchief-style tarpaulin over the square. And if you look into the lights, where before there was a proper flurry of rain, that's dissipated now. So we are hopeful that this is but a passing shower. But the players are not yet out there. There are some ground staff wrapped in polythene bags, really. The clear see-through sort of rain protector, looking out at the crowd. And by no means is everyone huddled for cover. There are signs of people moving around comfortably enough, which is often a very good sign of the strength of the rain. I can hear Kevin Howells. Kevin. Hello. This is a bit upsetting about the rain. Are you gonna hunt out some information from the ground?
Yes, I've just sent you a message there, Daniel, to say that if you keep doing the talking, I'll keep doing the digging.
Oh, lovely.
And
I see umpires,
I see that. You see what? You see the umpires?
I see umpires.
Well, I do see some ground staff also making their way towards the covers.
Yes.
So, yeah. But I still think that basic work ethos at the moment of you talk, I dig, will serve us well.
Okay.
And, I'm not too sure. Are they taking them off, or are they...
Well, there's a little bit of hokey cokey. There's not a lot of rain on the camera lenses, which is always a nice sign. There's little dapples of it, and as I say, if you look into the lights, and now this is the perfect view, as we gaze down over some bucket-headed fans. The buckets are keeping them dry, but I see youngsters frolicking and gamboling with uncovered heads. I see. What do we call those sort of pin things that keep the covers down?
Pin things.
Yeah. Picks. Thank you,
Ravi.
Ravi Bapara is here. He's an aficionado of all such matters, and they are being removed.
Pegs are being
removed.
Oh,
pegs.
Pegs are being removed.
Pegs are being removed.
Well, Ravi is no problem in telling us that the one thing that he and other cricketers like most about the game is when it rains. So he's an expert in this field.
I've yet to meet a cricketer who didn't. I terrified Phil Tufnell on air during a test match once, but by the thought that he might have played for Essex. And this wasn't because there's anything wrong with Essex, except that Essex is the county that's lost the least amount of time to rain, according to our statistician Andrew Sampson. And the look of horror on his face when he thought about what poor old Ravi Bapara and Ryan Tenduskarta have to go through playing down at Chelmsford with unrelenting sunshine.
I'm genuinely surprised by that. I know geographically it's not a major difference, but I would have always answered that question if somebody had asked me and said it would have been Kent. Because in my experience of doing the county scoreboards and the like over many a year now, it always seems to me that Kent always seem to be playing when the rest of the country is failing to do so.
Well, yes, that's the feeling you may get. You'll be unsurprised to know that Lancashire is the place for the indolent cricketer to ply his trade. He can extend his career by anything up to 25-30%. If you play most of it in Manchester, and you've only got to look at Jimmy Anderson to see the proof of that pudding, or Flat Jack Simmons, to know exactly how they managed to keep going for so long. But another one that's very bad for rain, and I hesitate to say these things because the moment you point it out, you get a bunch of angry fans who say, oh yeah, I suppose it never rains at Surrey, which isn't my point. The fact is that the stats just bear it out. Bristol next.
Yeah.
If you fancy the quiet life,
Glamorgan.
go to. Well, you'd be surprised. Glamorgan isn't great for rain. I mean, insofar as there is plenty of it. But it's Bristol that just beats it. Something to do with the I don't know. I'm going to make stuff up now. The Vone effect from the Bristol Channel.
Well, I'll have you know that when I was playing for Essex, we usually finished our games before. We had won our games before the rain came.
At Bristol?
No, I'm just saying when I played for Essex, we had already won our games before the rain came.
Oh, yes, I see.
Yes, you have, probably.
Yeah. Well, there was a season a couple of years back. Kevin will remember because you were at every game.
I might have been at every game. I won't remember. But go on, try me.
Well, if you were the Glamorgan commentator,
yes,
I think you found that you worked around half the amount of time of any other. Because bless them, they had a series of 1.5 and 2 day games.
Well, I want to pick you up on that straight away with your very shoddy use of language there when it comes to the understanding of the word work. You see, what Ravi needs to also understand is whilst he and other cricketers may get great joy in seeing the rain fall because they go off and do whatever they need to do, that's when we really need to start working. And therefore our colleague Nick Webb, I need to stand up for him and say he probably works harder than anybody for the fact that when it's not raining he has to think of other things to do and get things done. But well, do you know, I'm gonna riff slightly, very briefly on Glamorgan. As a few years back, I had the very great pleasure of covering Glamorgan against Derbyshire from the Swelek. Yes. And as it used to be,
and it was the last day of the game. It had been a tightly fought contest between these two sides, but neither really was in much of a chance really of winning. The players went off at around 2 in the afternoon. Yeah. And I thought, this is very odd. And the covers came on.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is even odder. Anyway, I wibbled a bit and then, said we're going to go back to the studio. And then I sort of drummed my fingers on the table for about 3/4 of an hour. And then do you know what I did? I went off and I did some digging like you do.
Well,
nothing like as well as you. Nothing like as well as you.
Yeah.
So I marched with purpose to the groundsman's hut to inquire as to the delay in play, because there was no rain, but the covers were out. I said very tentatively, I'm sorry, just wondering why we're not playing. And the groundsman said, well, it's going to rain, see? And I said, I'm sorry?
It's going to rain.
It's going to rain. He said, you see, the radar says it's going to rain.
That's a dreadful Welsh accent. I know your accent.
I said,
I thought it was quite good.
Thank you. He said, I said, but it hasn't yet. He said, I know, it's very surprising. We thought it was going to rain an hour ago.
Well, yeah.
So we were off for anticipated rain. So I don't know whether it actually rains more at Glamorgan or whether they just go off just in case.
Just in case it rains. Well, who knows? Who knows these things? Anyway, I'm going to go and dig. You carry on talking.
Dig.
I'm digging.
Well, Ravi and I are going to have a quick discussion here on the upcoming Test series, because on 5 Live Sports Extra, starting tomorrow morning, I've got to get it right because I'm going to be doing it. We are on air, I believe, at 4:15 was the announcement made yesterday on Twitter. 4:15 a.m. for you night owls, insomniacs and bright sparks, and just general cricket lovers, to bring you the first match in a 2-match series between Sri Lanka and England. This was the series that was postponed at the very last minute. You will recall last March, the England players were out there. They were in Sri Lanka. And then with, about 5-6 days to go before the first ball was going to be bowled, COVID had struck so mightily that the England team flew back to their families. There was a lot of uncertainty at the time and a lot of distress, of course, as well. When COVID first broke, there still is, of course, but then when people really didn't understand it, and so that tour was called off, and this is really that tour taking place 10 months later. And now, when England went that last time, they did manage a couple of warm-up games. For this series, they've managed 1 day of net practice, of square practice, if you like. A team captained by Jos Buttler and another team captained by Joe Root playing against each other. That's all the preparation they've had. And then they start in Gaul. First ball bowled at 4:30 tomorrow morning. Ravi, you've been on many a tour. That's quite a big ask for England, isn't it? I mean, off the back of such little preparation against the Sri Lankan side. They didn't have a great tour of South Africa, but they have played Test cricket very recently, albeit in very different conditions. It's going to be I mean, that we're asking a lot of our cricketers, aren't we, here?
It's definitely going to be difficult for some. Some don't. Some are okay. Some players are okay with very little preparation and just be able to go out and play. And then there's others that would, they would want at least 3 or 4 innings in warm-up games, and they'd want several nets and, sort of start preparing a couple of weeks before the first test. And some players really need that. And
I'm thinking of sort of people like, say, Zach Crawley, Dominic Sibley at the top of the order,
who haven't played much cricket in that part of the world.
Indeed, and haven't played much cricket of any kind. I mean, we've talked a lot about the pressure and strains that cricketers are under in COVID and the time they have to spend in bubbles, but that's true if you're playing in these tournaments. Now, if you're the likes of Tom Curran and Sam Curran and what have you, you're doing that. But Zach Crawley, Dominic Sibley, they won't have played a competitive match since the end of the Test series that England played. How difficult is that, especially if you were a red ball specialist? It's a very different game of cricket, isn't it? And they're playing on a often turning track in Gaul in very unfamiliar conditions.
Absolutely, it will be a really tough test certainly for those type of players. I think they need balls under their belts, and they need to get used to the conditions they're going to play in. I think one thing you got to be happy about is that Murali's not still playing, because that it would have been a real test then. I mean, the Sri Lankan bowling lineup, I will, no disrespect, but it's not the best in the world at the moment.
It's very inexperienced, isn't it?
Very inexperienced.
And a lot of them were injured during the South Africa series, so we wait to see what 11 Sri Lanka can patch up and get out onto the
Exactly
pitch.
right, and there's not really a spinner in that lineup with somebody who you'd really lose sleep over. I mean, you would, if you were playing against Murali, you definitely would lose sleep over it, especially if you only got one net session.
So do you think England may have a bit of an edge in that department? Because with the likes of Jack Leach and Dom Bess, they haven't played a lot of cricket. Again, England have got quite a number of specialist test players. Jack Leach, Dom Bess, they at least had a full summer, didn't they? Well, Dom Bess did. Jack Leach had an awful lot of nets and an awful lot of drinks carrying, but he will be relishing, won't he, the opportunity to play on responsive wickets at last.
Absolutely. I think England are definitely a better set in the spin department, but I think it's brought Sri Lanka a little bit back into the series, although it's a home series for Sri Lanka, but it's brought them a little bit back into it that England have had such little time to prepare. I think that sort of evens it out a little bit, and I think as the tour goes on, as the cricket goes on throughout the days, England will get better and better as it goes on, and then will eventually be too strong for Sri Lanka. But it certainly is a great opportunity for Sri Lanka to strike early,
especially those first couple of days. I mean, England have got a very poor record. I think they've lost 5 of the first 6 test matches that they've played. They lost, of course, to West Indies in the first test, and they nearly lost to Pakistan in their first test.
So if they win this test, is that the way to go for them? Just one net, and go from there
and be done. Now, there's a player, obviously, that we're going to be talking a lot about tomorrow morning, and is a man you know very, very well. And he has had a bit of cricket because he's been playing a bit of white ball cricket, T20 franchise cricket. Very exciting talent. Gives England a spin option as well. Will be coming in, we think, carded to come in at number 5. Dan Lawrence, who's played a lot of cricket with Essex. Can you give us an insight into the sort of player he is, both temperamentally and stylistically?
Yes, I can. He's very well driven. I think as a youngster, he's matured over the last couple of years. I think before that it was a little bit happy-go-lucky sort of. He was the youngster in the side. I think he's now looks at himself as one of the senior batsmen in the Essex side. Backs himself, definitely backs himself. He's come from that sort of background where you've got no option but to back yourself. He's a boy out of Chingford, out of East London, a similar area where, a couple of miles down from where I grew up, and it's he trained in the backyards of his local cricket club. His dad used to get on the machine with him. I think his dad was a groundsman, so there was plenty of net sessions for him, and he's a very, very talented boy.
His brother, I believe, has dabbled in pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's just, there's a running joke in the Essex dressing room about that. So he gets a lot of stick about that, and it's one of those subjects. But I think he'll do well.
How important do you think his spin bowling might be? I ask because for England, balancing a tide in Sri Lanka is very difficult. Last time England went there, I think between them, Broad and Anderson picked up 1 wicket. It's not a place where seamers flourish. Sri Lanka actually went in with only 1 seamer, Saranga Lakmal, during that series. And yet England's obvious strength lies in the likes of Mark Wood, Broad Anderson, Ollie Stone, Sam Curran. Can Dan Lawrence give you enough overs along with Joe Root to mean that England don't have to think about picking a third specialist spinner?
Yes, I think so. Although I don't think he's quite developed in the red ball aspect of bowling. I don't think he's quite there yet. He's definitely a better white ball bowler where he's got more margin for error. And we know in white ball cricket you can get away with bowling some bad balls. Some bad balls bring you wickets. In white ball cricket, it certainly doesn't. Not very often in 4-day cricket do you bowl a bad ball and get a wicket. It usually gets punished and gets hit for 4. So, I mean, with his bowling at the moment, there's certainly a few bad balls in there in each over.
Help me out, because I might find myself on commentary when he's bowling, and every time I see him bowl, I think he's bowling leggies, and every ball turns from off to leg. Does he? So, are they googlies? Is he basically?
No. He's an off spinner.
But his action looks like a leggy.
It does, really, because odd. He bowls a little bit off the wrong foot. He's got that. He sort of. It's hard to describe that action. It's an ugly action.
Yeah.
He bowls off the wrong foot, but he bowls with an off-spinner's action. He's got an off-spinner's wrist, and he just bowls a genuine off-spin.
Right.
So he runs his fingers down the side of the ball. I think he's got he gets very good wrist action on the ball. He's got a lot there to work with. I think he'll get better and better as he goes along. I mean, he's definitely got something there that a spin coach will go, yeah, I like that, because he gets such good revs and good dip on the ball, and his seam position is actually very good for an off spinner.
Now you mentioned his wrists there in bowling. Whenever I see him bat, it's an incredible feature.
Yeah.
He manages to find places, often on the leg side, to balls that really shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah.
It's quite an idiosyncratic way of playing, isn't it? And yet it can be hugely effective.
Yeah, he's a massive leg side player. He's and like a lot of the youngsters now, I think a lot of the young batters that come through in England are leg side dominant. And I've tried to work out why that could be the reason why the youngsters have gone that way. And my only reasoning was when I first started playing, there was a lot of swing. There was a lot of swing bowlers. So the normal thing to do was to run up and bowl out swing. That's what everybody wanted to do. It's just take the ball away from the batsman. And therefore your game as a youngster, as a batsman, developed on the offside, because that's where you would score most of your runs, because all the bowlers bowled without swing and you had to have shots on the offside. Whereas as the balls changed, a little bit, where the swing sort of died when they changed the Duke's ball, it stopped swinging. So bowlers became, the new bowlers that were coming in were more sort of targeted at the stumps. They became seam bowlers, so they didn't really look for swing. They came in and tried to just hit the seam and hit the stumps and bring the stumps into play. Therefore, the young batters coming through then develop their game as we've got to have shots on the leg side. That's where we're going to score a lot of our runs, because the bowlers are aiming at our pads and stumps. And he's certainly one of those. He's one of those who's what we call leg side Larry. But he's still got options on the offside. That's the key. The key is to have a super strength but still have options on the other side. He's certainly got those options on the other side, more than some of the other youngsters that I've seen.
Good news is that the covers have come off. The players have been practicing out in the outfield. We're going to get a resumption of play very shortly. The Thunder looking to go out there and defend that 166 that they made in their 20 overs. This is a clash of the top two sides on 5 Live Sports Extra. Big Bash coverage, Sydney Sixers against the Sydney Thunder. The Sixers currently on top of the table, so if they can hunt down that 167, and if they could even get the Bash boost, although that is a bit of an ask, 87 is the target with a Bash boost after 10 overs, they would move to 29 points at the top of the table, full 6 points ahead of the Thunder, and crucially 9 points ahead of the Scorchers and the Strikers. The Scorchers will have a game in hand, and it's so important because if you finish in that top two, well, you get 2 bites at the cherry. If you win in your playoff against the first place, second in a playoff, the winner goes through to the final. The loser goes through to what is in effect a semi-final against whichever side prevails from the third, fourth and fifth sides who play their own playoffs. Now then, before we get back out there, there's been other news in cricket this week. I'd like to get Ravi Bopara's view on it. There's a thrilling test series going on between Australia and India, which you will be able to hear, the fourth and final test from the Gabba. You'll be able to hear that on 5 Live Sports Extra day after tomorrow, I think that one starts. India's so depleted now with injuries, and with Virat Kohli being in India for the birth of his daughter, which we should congratulate him on, somehow managed to dig in and save a test that looked almost impossible, with Hanuma Vihari on one leg and Ravichandran Ashwin with his back in all sorts of bother and covered in bruises. Ravindra Jadeja with a dislocated thumb wasn't going to really be able to bat. Somehow they held out, and in so doing, a couple of incidents took place, let's say. The captain, Tim Paine, the nice guy that's been transforming the image of Australian cricket since the low point of Sandpaper Gate, and Steve Smith, both involved in different ways in incidents. Now, you've seen them both. One of them, let's start with Tim Paine behind the stumps, being very chirrupy to our Ashwin while he was batting. What's your take on that? A lot of it was picked up on stump mic, and it seemed that Tim Paine knows that those mics are on. He's used them before in a previous series against India. What did you make of that?
Look, sledging and sort of going at the batsman a little bit is part of the game. It's been part of the game for a very long time. But one thing you want to do is, if you're going to go at someone, you want to make sure you can back it up. And unfortunately for Tim Paine, he's gone at a guy who's a bowler in Test cricket, and this Ashwin has scored more hundreds in Test cricket than Tim Paine. And to go at Ashwin about batting and whatever, I think he's a bit, he's got to be careful, because you sort of put yourself on the line, don't you, really? And most of the cricketers out there, I think, in dressing rooms now will be saying, well, Tim Paine hasn't got any Test hundreds, so he hasn't got any more Test hundreds than Ashwin, and Ashwin's not even a batsman.
Well, he gave a kind of, when I say an apology, the form of words he used was that he felt that he was disappointed in himself that he'd fallen short of his own high standards. And I always think that that's a very interesting sort of double-speak way of, it's almost a humble brag, isn't it? It's like saying, well, I've got really high standards to start with, which is, I think that's for us to decide whether he has really high standards. Correct. Because if he does, then he really did fall quite a long way beneath them, it felt like. But is this, I want to get your perspective as a player. The frustration when you feel you ought to win the game. Australia go out there with, you could argue, one of the best bowling attacks in their whole history. Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, Lyon, they've been pretty much ever present for the last 4 seasons in Australia. They're a terrific lineup. They would have fully expected to win. That last day they needed 7.5 wickets, by which I mean, Jadeja being injured. And a depleted side, many of them carrying injuries, they didn't. And things sort of boiled over because that partnership between Ashwin and Vihari was frustrating them. Is this something that we're just getting a bit hot under collar about? It's bound to happen. End of a 5th day, when sides aren't prevailing, tempers will get a bit frayed? Or is this something, again, that, Australia needs to go back to the drawing board and have a look at the way they play the game?
I think there's a bit of both in there. There is a little bit of both. You do get frustrated as a player when you think we've got this game in the bag and it just doesn't happen. It is, honestly, it's so frustrating. But at the same time, you can't as an Australian team and as a setup keep saying, we're doing this for the game, and we do this, and then suddenly bang, this situation happens, and then try and make it all good again by doing this and PR this and that, and then bang, do another situation. And I think it's the way the Australians play the game. It's natural to them to be that way, and they've just got to accept it and just say, no, but this is the way we play the game, like it or hate it, but this is the way we're going to play, instead of pretending to be Mr. Nice Guys. I mean, they ain't Mr. Nice Guys. I've played in Australia. I've played against enough Australians to know that that's not them. They are not Mr. Nice Guys.
Right, we've got our top line, Kevin Howes. Get onto the online team. The Australians are not Mr. Nice Guy.
Excuse me if I don't fall off my chair there, too. But I can tell you, what I can do, the top line should be revised target 129 in 14 overs. 67 off 7 required for the bash boost point.
67 off 7 for the bash. You've done a lot of very good digging.
You boys have been doing a good job here as well. We've all been well. Everybody's done very well.
So 129 from 14. That's because the match has been reduced in overs. So how do you want to do this then, Kevin? Let's do a bit of on-air production, or have you sent me a note?
I'll do the first 7, you do the next 7, and we make Ravi work the entire lot.
I think that's fantastic. Before I go, can I just ask, I'm going to leave the bombshell. I want to know what Ravi thought about Steve Smith and whether he thought that he was actually disturbing the crease. Or
we do want to know that. We do want to know that, and we will know it at the end of this first over of this reply.
I'll get out your hair.
And you can also, thank you, and you can also make him a nice cup of coffee or tea, even if there isn't any milk. Next delivery, first delivery of this revised game. The second innings of the match is Sam's bowling, and that is Philippi, who just pushes that one into the offside for no run. So 129 from 14 overs, 166 for 6 was the original score and target set by the Thunder, but we've had some rain, and therefore it's 129 of 14 overs, 67 for 7, the bash boost point. I'm always very late on arriving at decisions that this is very unfair. I always take the point of view that it is what it is, really, and that's what we're dealing with at the moment. And Philippi and Avendano, who's been brought into the team of the opening pair. And the second delivery from Sams, who did very well with the bat earlier this evening with exactly 50 not out. Bowls the first 2 deliveries for the dot balls. And you just have to deal with it as players as well, don't you, Ravi? Just get on with it, really.
Yeah, you do. You just, generally, the Duckworth-Lewis method usually punishes the fielding side more often. It usually helps the batting side.
Yeah. And Philippi on naught, he'll launch this one away on the leg side, and there's plenty of space out there. It's a 4-1 bounce just in front of the rope, actually, almost cleared it, but it is a 4, and they're off the mark, 4 for no wicket.
I think the Sixers would be quite happy with this result. I think as in chasing down 129, is it, of 14 overs?
It is, yeah.
I think they'll be happy with that. They've got 10 wickets in hand. They'll have their power play overs. Do we know what the power play overs are?
No, I haven't got that sort of information. I've done my best for you, Ravi, but I've let you down, basically, haven't I? I've let you down.
I'm going to take a guess that it'll be 3 power play overs at the top and probably 1 over for the surge.
Well, that sounds very sensible to me, but not always is that the way it goes. Sam's in, bowls, a little bit of width, it's in the air, and it's just over the fielder. In fact, he was looking as if he was going to fall for him. It was quite some distance away from Hales, but he does drag it back in before he gets to the boundary. So he well past him initially on the edge of the circle, then he went chasing it hard and prevents a boundary being scored. And Philippi moves to 7, and the score is 7 for no wicket, 4 balls into this 14 overs reply. And I haven't had that breakdown of the power plays and the power surges and things. We do know that the bash boost point is to get 67 of 7. That's right, 67 off 7 overs, not the 10. You're going to get that point. But to win 122 off 80 deliveries. 2 balls left of this first over, and Sams, it is bowling it. Sams back in the team following that short layoff of a couple of matches for the concussion reasons. But he seemed to be showing no ill effects with the bat, and with the ball he now bowls on leg stump, bowling to Avendano, who's in. There's no Jack Edwards in the team tonight for the Sixers. Top 2 meeting in the ladder, and that delivery is just defended away to that onside for no run. Yeah, just checking, just constantly looking for updates on the breakdown of power plays and everything, but it's not showing up on any screens I have at the moment. But back to the action, and Avendano facing his second delivery, being bowled by Daniel Sams, left arm on the leg stump, and again Avendano can't get it away. Now, of course, this is his first match of the season, and it's never easy, of course, but in this situation as well, where you've maybe been preparing yourself, got 20 overs, how are you going to play it? Well, Philippi, who has had a good campaign, the scorer of the second highest score in the competition so far of 95, he's got an average of 30, and one of those batters who scored well over 200 runs in the competition. It's for him, although he's still quite young of age, is Philippi, to help him. He's at 23, Avendano, with far less experience, mind you, is a few years older than him, but he's got to steer him through these times. So yeah. Philippi on 7, Avendano yet to get off the mark. And one over completed.
Just sitting here, just trying to work out what the power play overs are going to be, and it has to be 3 and 1. I mean, it's going to make a big difference in how they go about chasing this total.
So spin, John O'Cook again, another change made to the team this evening. Down and sweeping Philippi, this one sweeps it brilliantly, square on the onside for 4. 11 for no wicket in the second over.
Good shot there from Philippi. He likes a sweep shot. He's somebody who quite low to the ground as it is, and likes to play across the line of the ball. So it's a very safe shot for him normally. And I think the Thunder going with spin, obviously seeing the effects that spin took in their innings, they've gone early with spin here.
Philippi 11 not out off 5 balls faced, and Cook to bowl to him again with his spin on the leg stump, and again played away through mid-wicket. The fielder is out there, but he won't be able to cut it off. That's got the better of Alex Ross, who is standing square and a lot of ground to cover and can't do so. Successive 4s. Philippi moves to 15.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, I think, from the Thunder to bowl a wrist spinner in the power play. It's such a hard task for a leggy to come out and bowl in the power play, because naturally they have to give the ball a bit of air to get anything out of the wicket, whereas more the guy who bowls off spin or left arm spin sort of can fire it in.
So Philippi on 15. Looks to beat the inner circle again. That races away through extra cover, and it won't be cut off. It's another 4. A difficult start, to say the least, here, Ravi, for John O'Cook tonight. That's 3 successive boundaries to start his evening, and the Sixers 19 for no wicket.
Yeah, I think you got a feel for him. You know, the power play generally isn't for the leg spinner. I always felt in the, you know, whenever I see a team or a captain ask his leg spinner to bowl in the power play, I always think it's a bad option. They're the sort of guys you want to use in the middle when the field's out, and you know, you're asking questions of the batter.
This is a power play over. There are only 2 power play overs with the change due to rain, and this has gone high over mid-wicket. That's covered some ground. Whoa, that has gone a long way. That's going to be 6 over mid-wicket. Philippi really into it tonight, and so quickly. Moves to 25, and it's 25 for no wicket. 2 balls left for the 6th over, so that's 3 4s and a 6. Oh, you've got to feel for Cook right now.
Yeah, although it's difficult for the leg spinner, you can't take away the execution that Philippi is showing here. I mean, he's managed to pick the gap with pretty much every ball so far, and obviously getting down on one knee and slog sweep in the 4th ball for 6. I mean, it's been great great skill as a batsman to be able to find the boundary every ball so far.
He's been out there for 7 minutes. He scored 25 runs. This is cricket, everybody. It is cricket. Philippi on 25, and again looking to sweep. And he didn't necessarily got the timing of that right, but he has got 4. Again finds the gap, and it's another boundary. Well, I haven't got the necessary figures at hand here for the most expensive overs. It's got to be pretty much up there, depending on this last ball as well. But 29 for no wicket is the score. 1 ball left of the second over. 22 runs so far coming from this one. Philippi has moved to 29 not out.
In so often in T20 cricket, 1 over can change the whole game. I mean, you can win or lose it in 1 over, and to ask your leg spinner to bowl in a power play over when the team is needing sort of chasing around 10 and over or 9 and over, it's not a good option.
And it's proven not to be. Philippi, 29 not out. What's he doing with this one? He's gone high again over mid-wicket. Will it be a catch this time? Well, it won't be a boundary, at least. McAndrew is the fielder out there, and John O'Cook, he's not going to hang around and collect the ball. I'm not even sure he's going to bother with his cap. Just, marches off. 30 for no wicket. 2 overs of the 14 gone. 99 from 72 balls here for the Sixers. Philippi on 30. Avendano's only faced 2 balls, sitting there on naught at the moment, and 23 runs coming from that over for Cook.
Absolute ideal start here for the Sixers as well. That's probably just what Philippi wanted as well. You've seen a spinner from the other end in the power play over. You lick your lips as a batsman, especially when you know you can go full tilt, because they can't afford to hang around. There's no sort of thinking in this innings. It's just keep going. I mean, they've brought the rate down to 8.5 already, so I mean they're sitting in a strong position now.
Got some more details on the playing conditions now, Ravi. 14 overs match, we know that. 3 overs for the power play. So not 2 but 3. It's almost as if they're making it up as they're going along. They're not. It's just they're not communicating it very well to us. So it's 3 overs for the power play. I'll tell you about the other breakdowns in a few moments' time, because right now I'm going to see Milne introduced. This is still a power play. Next delivery on the off stump and pushed into the offside. Scamper through for a single. Score moves to 31 for no wicket. And Philippi to 31. The bowlers, we've got 4 can bowl 3, 1 can bowl 2, 1 over a power surge. And here's the most important bit: there won't be a drinks break. So that is it. I'll go through it again just in a moment or two's time at the end of this over, just so we know the full playing condition. Sorry for the confusion, but as I say, I think you can excuse most things in these COVID times for communication issues. But that said, often it can be difficult to get hold of this information, but we have done so now, and I'll just repeat it again in a moment. But Avendano is yet to get off the mark. He's facing just his 3rd delivery. He will do with a 4 there, though. That's past the wicketkeeper, past the man standing at short 3rd man, and it's a boundary, and it's 35 for no wicket after 2.2 overs, so he's in on the action as well with a boundary.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate there for Milne. He's not a bad ball at all, but catches the edge. And that's one of those things as well. I mean, the bowler and the captain have got to communicate, and you've got to make the right decisions when you've got such a short game. And with Thunder needing wickets, could have possibly had a slip in, or even had the 3rd man back with the pace that Milne's bowling. I mean, you could ask the batsman to hit over his head.
Avendano on 4, and he has a swipe at that, and it's through to the keeper. He misses. I'm just going to give a word also to the statisticians here. I mean, here I am saying about the communication of what's happening. If it's not already complicated enough when we get, rain-reduced matches, overs reduced and that sort of thing, they've got even more information they need to sort out now in terms of the power surge, in terms of the bash boost point. So there's a lot of work. I'm sure it's all set up there quite neatly on a computer and programmed in, but still a lot of work for people to do it. All that information still has to be put in, of course. Avendano, 4 not out, and again another play and a miss, and not too far away from the edge. He's got 1 boundary here off an edge, but he's not looked at all comfortable. He looks like somebody who's not played at this level of T20 for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another reason why I'm sitting there confused as to why they've got 3rd man up in the circle when he's getting that sort of bounce and swing. they should at least have a slip in and have your third man back on the boundary, so that you're asking the batsman, if he wants to score and play aggressively, he's got to hit it back over Milne's head, and that's a difficult thing to do the way he's bowling at the moment. He's bowling, sort of high 140s.
Milne coming into Avendano again, right arm in and bowls, and that's been hammered away through the leg side this time, but he's got hold of that for a 4. Playing the other side, he's happier with that. He moves to 8, and the score 39 for no wicket. 1 ball left to the third.
Yeah, but that's a bit. I prefer that. I think if that's better for you're asking the batsman to play against the pace of the ball. There's more that can go wrong for the batsman if he's having to hit the ball that way against Milne. So good bit of cricket actually, I think, from both sides.
90 runs off 67 balls. Run rate just over 8. Next delivery gone same direction again. Bit more aerial this time. Doesn't get quite so much on it. Bit of a fumble there from Cutting, which will allow them, I think, to go through for 2. If he'd been a little bit sharper, that might have just been the single, and Milne looks a little disappointed because he'd bowled well there. He's in the end gone for 11 runs, but it's 41 for no wicket. 3 overs of the 14 gone. Philippi 31, Avendano on 10, 88 from 66 needed. Ravi, I'll just repeat again, it's a 14 overs match, 3 overs of power play. That has now been completed. And we've got the bowlers, 4 can bowl 3, 1 can bowl 2. Got 1 over a power surge. It doesn't say when that will be. Logic would tell me it would be after 7 overs of a 14 overs match. That would seem fair to me, but who knows. And then the no drinks break. So I think we've got all the details we need now, Ravi. It's just now for the Sixers to sort out whether they can get these runs, and at the moment it looks like the real pressure is upon the Thunder to defend.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure will be on the Thunder now, because Sixers have got themselves into a great position, only needing 88 off the next 66 balls, with every wicket still in hand. Sorry, just to...
Yep, go on.
What about subs? Can you do subs?
No, that's only in the first innings.
Only in the first innings.
Yeah, no, I questioned that as well early on, Ravi, which is why I could be so firm in the knowledge, because somebody told me quite abruptly that no, it can only be in the first innings. It took away all the fun for me. Next delivery, that's worked away square, and there will be 1 run. Can you imagine, with a rain delay and the fact you could throw in some X-Factor subs? Oh, it would be chaos, wouldn't it?
It would be chaos. Imagine the work having to be done then.
I don't put it past the authorities to do it at some stage. Oh dear, oh dear. Avendano is on 10 not out. He's going to face the next delivery. McAndrew is his bowling. We're into this 4th over, 42 for no wicket. The Sixers going along very nicely. I mean, the main thing is, with the rain and the weather, we still get a decent game. Let's see if we can. Avendano facing, next delivery, a little shorter, high on the leg side. How far has that gone? Has it travelled the distance? Yes, it has. Over the mid-wicket boundary. Well, he didn't look at all comfortable, but he doesn't mind hitting that ball on the leg side, and he clears the rope for a 6. He's on to 16, 48 for no wicket in the 4th over.
Well, Avendano's clearly quite strong on the short ball. I mean, he's 2 boundaries. Well, he's hit 3 boundaries. 2 of them have come from the pull shot. 1 came from a thick outside edge from a fullish ball. So maybe the Thunder getting their plan a little bit wrong to him. I think if they could smart on up and probably go a little bit fuller and ask him to hit more down the ground, I think that'll be more testing for him.
As I say, it's the first match of the season. He has played only 9 games previously to this. Strike rate, career strike rate of those 9 games, 111. His highest score has been 47. He's on 16 at the moment. And McAndrew bowls to now full on middle and leg. Worked away on the onside again by Avendano, but along the ground moves to 17, and the Sixers up to 49 for no wicket in the 4th over.
It just looks that way. I've been looked at his setup and the way he plays. It just looks a little bit less comfortable when the ball's a little bit fuller. But certainly when the ball's sort of halfway down or short, he looks really strong and in a great position to play the pull shot.
Top 2 in the ladder. Sixers versus the Thunder. Both have won 6, both have lost 3. Something's got to give this evening by the looks of it. Next delivery is hammered hard along the ground, but only as far as mid-off to the fielder Alex Hales, who stands out because he's got the the yellow stroke golden cap. I had this problem last year. It looks more yellow than golden to me, but anyway, it's supposed to be the golden cap, I think. And the reason he's wearing it, Alex Hales, is because he is now the leading run scorer in the competition. With his runs this evening, he's moved up to 323. The previous highest scorer of runs within the competition was Ben McDermott on 301, but he's overtaken him. 50 up for the Sixers, 50 for no wicket, 2 balls left to this over, and this one's gone high again from Avendano on the leg side. Will this fall for a catch this time? Yes, it does, and it's fallen for Cutting. Ben Cutting takes the catch. They have their first wicket breakthrough. Avendano 17 of 10 deliveries, and it's 50 for 1 with 1 ball left of the 4th over in a game down to 14.
Yeah, much needed wicket there for the Thunder, and it's probably 1 poor shot too many in the end for Avendano. Not quite as short as the previous balls, a little bit more into a hard length, and it's a good bit of cricket from the Thunder. Set the right field with a deep mid wicket in place, so a good bit of cricket, and Avendano falls.
He does. I mean, he's contributed a few runs there in a game which has been affected here by the rain. Whether or not he's enjoyed himself, he would love the chance to get it back out there again, I'm sure, but no Edwards tonight. I think it was just a tactical change. I don't think there are any injuries. I may have missed that for Jack Edwards. I know that one of the changes tonight was Chris Green, and he has had an injury which has forced his withdrawal from the game, a calf injury, but I haven't read anything about Jack Edwards. But that was a change made. But Avendano now out, dismissed for 17, and James Vince is next in. James Vince, who will be at the bowler's end here. So the batter's having crossed, and it's Philippi who's facing McAndrew. Bowls now on the leg stump, clipped away on that onside. Push hard for 1. Will they get a second? And they will just settle for 1. Cutting, by the way, who threw the ball there. So at the end of that over, 4 overs gone, 51 for 1 after 14. Philippi 34, 78 off